Chapter 638. What? The bald hall leader immediately stood up, cold sweat dripping down his forehead. These demon bastards' movements are actually so fast. He clenched his fists, pulled out his sword and chopped down on the table. Brothers, prepare for battle. With the hall leader's order, all the disciples in the hall stood up, took out their weapons and rushed out of the hall to the streets outside. On the streets, even more disciples of the sword sect started to move. These disciples of the sword sect all came from various sects, but they were all well trained and uniformly ran towards the gate. There was already a white-faced man standing on top of the city wall. He wore a purple robe with arrow sleeves and had a sword hanging from his waist. His left hand pointed downwards while his right hand rested on the hilt of his sword. His voice was like a bell, clearly entering everyone's ears. Swordsman team, immediately go up the city wall and prepare sword chi to attack from afar. Swordsman team, hide on both sides of the city gate and wait for a surprise attack. Pugilist team, prepare to open the gate and face the enemy. The sword sect was divided into 3 groups: swordsman, swordsman, and pugilist. Swordsman was a martial artist who was good with swords, swordsman was an expert with blades, and pugilist was an expert with fists and had learned a certain amount of hard qigong. They were responsible for charging at the front. Then the one commanding is the Night Rain building. Liu Zhu pointed and then said to Li Fan, "He is quite calm and has a good command. Why is this like commanding a group battle in an online game?" Li Fan felt that it was a bit childish, but Liu Zhu said, "This is the tactic that the Night Rain building uses. It is the simplest method, but it has the greatest effect. In the world's 4 alliances, each alliance has a battlefield commander." Liu Zhu's explanation was easy to understand. This Night Rain building seems to be the new commander of the sword sect. Understood. Li Fan more or less understood this concept. After all, there was a high chance that there would be a war between the 4 alliances and there would be a conflict with the demon sect. If these alliances were to fight, the scale would not be small. Without a suitable commander, it was indeed not suitable. Although they had not passed the final test, Li Fan and the rest also ran out, went up to the top of the city wall, and looked down at the devil cult disciples. The number of people in the evil faction was indeed huge. Below the city walls, there were no less than 300 to 400 people. Although it was a mix of good and bad people, they definitely had the advantage in numbers. In this world, all the martial artists who liked to do evil had all joined the camp of solipsism. With Li Wei as their backer, they would naturally be more presumptuous. "Where's your sword-leaning white queen? Let her come out and show her face." Below the city wall, a white-haired man walked out from the devil cult's camp. He looked at the people on the city wall and licked his lips. "If it's only you guys, I won't be happy." The white-haired man's smile carried a hint of ridicule, causing the swordsman to feel extremely unhappy. That Baldy was a hall master of leaning sword, moreover, he was the chief hall master, and his status was not low. He immediately pulled out his treasured sword and pointed it at the white-haired man below as he roared loudly. "TSK. Bald Eagle, you madman. Full of big talk. Today, I'll definitely take your head with this treasured sword of mine." Li Fan's eyes sharpened as he thought, this person is actually the Bald Eagle. He glanced at Liu Zhu, who nodded too. "Ha ha ha, isn't this Wang Chen?" The Bald Eagle was not annoyed and looked at the burly bald man named Wang Chen with a smile. "You used to be a nobody in solipsism. Why have you become the chief hall master of leaning sword in the blink of an eye? Even a nobody like you can become the chief hall master. It seems that leaning sword isn't that great after all. Damn it, fuck." Wang Chen was infuriated and was about to jump down to fight with the Bald Eagle, but he was stopped by Night Rain Pavilion. Although Night Rain Pavilion spoke gently, there was a force that could not be rejected. Every word he said was clearly heard by everyone. "Those who come are guests. Friends, why don't you come in and take a seat first? Otherwise, if word gets out that you all die outside, I'm afraid outsiders will say that Leaning Sword doesn't treat its guests well." The Bald Eagle didn't seem to care at all, even though he threw a few words at him with a spear. No, I'm a very casual person. I don't like people being polite to me." The Bald Eagle smiled and stretched out his hands. True chi gathered in his palms. Why don't you come down and we can have a good chat? With that, he threw two heads on the ground. It was Qingfeng and Mingyu. I chatted with the two of them for a while just now and we had a good chat. In an instant, the anger of all the disciples of Leaning Sword immediately soared. Qingfeng and Mingyu were the two door gods of Leaning Sword. They were very strong and had a very easygoing personality. At this moment, the two of them only had their heads left. They were thrown on the ground and one of them was even stepped on by the bald eagle. However, I didn't have enough fun chatting with them. I hope I can chat with you guys a little more happily. Bald eagle. You're courting death. Wang Chen could no longer suppress the anger in his heart. At this moment, he wished that he could cut this bald eagle in half with his saber. Night Rain Pavilion could not stop him. He had already jumped down. A height of more than 20 meters was nothing to an expert. Wang Chen held his treasured saber and landed on the bald eagle's head in the blink of an eye. He slashed at the bald eagle's head. This saber strike was filled with terrifying energy, as if Pangu had split the heavens and earth apart. However, the bald eagle sneered. He leaned to the side and struck Wang Chen's saber with his claw. With a clang, Wang Chen's saber was knocked askew. At the same time, there were 4 finger marks on the blade. It could be seen how terrifying the bald eagle's finger technique was. Wang Chen, you little shrimp, you're still too far away. The bald eagle laughed. Taking advantage of Wang Chen's unguarded state, he grabbed Wang Chen's chest and pierced his 5 fingers directly into Wang Chen's heart. This Wang Chen's heart was about to be dug out. The bald eagle had a smug smile on his face. He seemed to have foreseen Wang Chen's death. However, at that moment, a figure suddenly appeared behind him. The bald eagle seemed to have sensed something and looked back in surprise. But before he could turn his head, that person's palm was already on his back. Bear King Seal. Puff. A bloody hole appeared in the bald eagle's lower abdomen. He looked at his lower abdomen in shock. He did not even know what had happened. This palm strike is for Tang, and as Li Fan spoke, he took a step forward and punched the bald eagle's chin. Bang! The bald eagle's head was smashed into minced meat. Only a headless corpse was left, falling into the snow. This punch is for Qingfeng and Mingyu, Li Fan added coldly. Chapter 639. Li Fan killed the bald eagle in 2 moves. This move shocked everyone present. Who is down there? Night Rain Tower could not help but ask. Seems like they are here to recruit new members, one of Yi Jian's men answered. Recruit new members? Night Rain Tower raised his eyebrows and pointed. The enemy's general is dead. Now is the time to follow up. Assassin team, go. Under his command, the city gate opened, and the hundreds of saber men who were lying in ambush behind the gate immediately rushed out. Like a black torrent, they surged into the enemy camp in an instant, killing the devil cult disciples until they threw away their helmets and armor, wailing like ghosts and howling like wolves. In less than the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn, the demonic cult disciples were defeated and fled. Yi Jian's men were excited when the demonic cult disciples were killed. They shouted and celebrated their victory. All right, everyone clean up the battlefield. 10 minutes later, everyone retreat to the city wall. Night Rain Tower ordered everyone, this is just the enemy's vanguard. Their main force will arrive at any time. Night Rain Tower had already predicted the enemy's hostility. Everyone firmly believed his words. Under his order, they quickly cleaned up the battlefield and retreated to the city wall. This time, the enemy has suffered a loss. They will definitely not let this go. Night Rain Tower ordered the guards, guard the city gate well. Do not let anyone pass. He then walked to Wang Chen's side. This brother is already lying on a stretcher. Don't be so impulsive in the future. Rest well. So, sorry, Wang Chen's face was full of shame. Obviously, he felt that he was too impulsive this time. After taking care of the surrounding people, Night Rain Tower and Li Fan met in the meeting hall. Night Rain Tower walked in and cupped his hands towards Li Fan. Yi Jian's leader, Night Rain Tower, greets Chief Escort Li He. Li Fan was a little surprised. You recognize me? He has already changed his bones. Logically, no one should be able to recognize him. Just now, Chief Escort Li used Ursa Major Seal. I saw it clearly. Therefore, I made a presumptuous guess. If I guessed wrongly, please forgive me. Damn, I've met another intelligent player. Li Fan was most afraid of this kind of people. Night Rain Building, Dong Yi, Liu Zhu and the like. They were too good at scheming, and it was impossible for him to guard against them. Li Fan was better at fighting, but he was not as good at brainstorming as these people. A person must face up to his own strengths and weaknesses and not think too highly of himself. Actually, it's not that I'm very smart. It's just that I've studied Chief Escort Li's martial arts. Night Rain Tower seemed to have guessed Li Fan's thoughts. He smiled and explained, Chief Bodyguard Li has used this Bear King seal many times. It shouldn't be hard for others to recognize it. That's true. Li Fan felt that what he said was somewhat reasonable, but Liu Zhu, who was standing at the side, did not say a word, as if she was thinking about something. Li Fan was also muttering in his heart. This guy was a member of the devil cult, and he had already followed him into the Leaning Sword Laughing Breeze. Now that the vanguard of the devil cult had been beaten back, what would this guy do next? Liu Zhu's thoughts were the most difficult to guess, just like a woman's. Chief Escort Li, I'm afraid you didn't come to my Leaning Sword headquarters to sightsee, right? Night Rain Tower looked at Li Fan with a smile. As for recruiting new members, I can't believe it. I was invited by Tangan to help. Li Fan decided to be honest. Tangan? Night Rain Tower muttered, he's the new chief instructor I recruited this time, but I don't know where he is now. I'm afraid he won't be coming back. Li Fan's expression was gloomy. He died in the hands of the bald eagle. The bald eagle killed many people. Now that he was killed by Chief Escort Li, it can be considered as eliminating a scourge for the world. Night Rain Tower's body trembled slightly. Although he said it casually, the anger between his brows could not be concealed. Leaning Sword didn't have many people, but every one of them was an elite, and every one of them was a brother. Leaning Sword only has 300 people in total. I'm afraid we'll lose a lot of brothers in this battle. Night Rain Tower felt his heart ache, but at this moment, a voice came from the side. Leaning Sword has many experts, and our morale is high. How can we be afraid of a motley crew? Li Fan turned around and saw a beautiful woman in green walking in with small steps. The woman's face was cold, as if someone owed her millions. Although she was beautiful, the fierce aura between her brows was too heavy, and she was destined to have no luck with men. Temph, it's her. Liu Zhu transmitted his voice to Li Fan, beast immortal of the 4 heavenly kings, Jin Kumo. This woman looks as beautiful as a flower, but her methods are extremely vicious. She's killed many of my brothers, and she's no better than the bald eagle. Liu Zhu's voice was obviously filled with hatred. It seemed like he didn't have a good impression of Jin Kumo. Leaning Sword doesn't need outsiders' help. Jin Kumo looked at Li Fan coldly. You can scram now. Li Fan was very embarrassed, but Liu Zhu took a step forward and said, Beast Immortal, don't get it wrong. It's not us who wanted to come, it's your Tangan who invited us. We don't want it even if you owe us 100,000 yuan, but you still use this kind of attitude to talk to us. Leaning Sword is really rude and unreasonable. How is it different from the Devil Sect? You can't pretend that you didn't hear that, Jin Kumo said, and the true chi in her body immediately revolved. Her body slightly changed into the shape of a fierce tiger, and her hands were placed in front of her like tiger claws, as if she would pounce at any time. As expected of a beast immortal, her Xingyi martial arts is really good. Li Fan couldn't help but think, if he fought her with the Black Tiger Emperor, what would the outcome be? Thinking of this, Li Fan couldn't help but feel itchy. Kumo, you're still messing around at this time. Night Rain Tower berated, causing Jin Kumo's face to turn slightly red, snorted, and turned her head away. Li Fan and Liu Zhu looked at each other. This insufferably arrogant Jin Kumo seems to have some special feelings for Night Rain Tower. I'm sorry, although Kumo's temper is not good, she is not a bad person. If she has offended the two of you in any way, I apologize on her behalf. Night Rain Tower cupped her hands towards Li Fan and Liu Zhu, but Li Fan waved his hand, indicating that it's fine. To be honest, although my Leaning Sword has many elites, we are a group of dragons without a leader. Night Rain Tower's words made Li Fan and Liu Zhu start to guess. Leaning Sword is a group of dragons without a leader. What does this mean? A few days ago, our alliance leader Luo Xuewu, in order to practice the Nine Heaven mystical ice technique, accidentally went berserk and sealed herself in ice. Because of this, Zhong Xiaotian went out to find a famous doctor, wanting to undo the ice seal on alliance leader Luo. And Guo Mingming guarded the ice cave, protecting the alliance leader day and night. Chapter 640. Night Rain Tower's words were shocking. Nine Heavens Mystic Ice. Isn't this the fifth peerless martial art in the Divine Skill Manual? Liu Zhu could not help but exclaim in shock. Yes. Night Rain Tower nodded. It's my fault. This technique is actually a secret art that I obtained by chance. Because I'm a man, I'm not suitable to cultivate this martial art, so I gave it to the alliance leader. I didn't expect her to go berserk. I'm really ashamed. Night Rain Tower's expression was filled with guilt. Jin Kumao nudged him lightly. It's not your fault, it's the alliance leader who insisted on cultivating it. You've already stopped her. Sigh. It's a pity that I couldn't stop the alliance leader. Night Rain Tower seemed to have a strong sense of responsibility as he sighed. Because of this, if the demonic cult attacks now, with only the two of us, I'm afraid it'll be difficult to stop them. You just love to worry about groundless things. Jin Kumao said, they're just some demonic cult thieves. How can they shake the prestige of my sword? It's good that you have such an imposing manner. Night Rain Tower nodded, but I'm the commander, so I have to think of every possible situation. Kumao, please understand, it's my duty. Me. I hate you, always thinking so much. Jin Kumao turned his head and crossed his arms, as if he did not want to talk to Night Rain Tower. I'm sorry for making a fool of myself. Night Rain Tower cupped his hands at Li Fan. If the two of you are willing to help me resist the demonic cult's invasion, I, Yi Jian, will be very grateful. About the 100,000 yuan, of course it's counted, I'll give it to you with both hands. Ha ha ha, forget it, just transfer it to my Alipay. Li Fan laughed, it's a technological society, we martial artists have to keep up with the times. Head escort Li is right. Night Rain Tower nodded, but Jin Kumao curled his lips and sneered. Profiteer. Kumao. Night Rain Tower frowned, you're too rude. Me. It's none of your business. Tsukumo flicked his sleeves, turned around, and left the meeting hall. My apologies. I've made a fool of myself. Night Rain Tower smiled bitterly. It's all my fault. I've spoiled her too much. Li Fan heard the other meaning behind it, but he didn't say it out loud. It doesn't matter. I am indeed a profiteer. However, I work for money. As long as the money is in place, I promise I will get it done for you. Li Fan chuckled and did not take it to heart. It seemed that money was the most important thing to him. All right, Chief Escort Li, I'll be troubling you to guard the Leaning Sword Gate with me. Night Rain stretched out his hand and shook hands with Li Fan, signing the contract. The two of them temporarily formed an offensive and defensive alliance. Li Fan's mission was to protect Yi Sword and Luo Xuewu's safety. According to my spies, there are about 1,000 people from the devil cult here. Night Rain Tower suddenly revealed his intel. And the leader is Song Fuya. Fuck, more than 1,000 people. Li Fan wanted to roll his eyes. Why didn't you say so earlier? Chief Escort Li didn't ask about it earlier. Night Rain Tower chuckled. Just now, Chief Escort Li only asked about the money and then agreed. Fuck, Li Fan wanted to curse. He was fucking tricked again. How could these people be so calculative? Fuck. Chief Escort Li, since the people from the devil cult haven't arrived yet, why don't you come with me to see the alliance leader? Night Rain Tower suddenly stood up and patted the dust on his body. Let's go. All right. Li Fan first glanced at Liu Zhu. He was thinking if he should make her stay. However, Liu Zhu followed him closely, not leaving him by even an inch. Don't play any tricks. Li Fan transmitted his voice to Liu Zhu. I'm in a bad mood right now. Don't make me vent my anger on you. Ayo, I'm actually just here to join in the fun. I really have no purpose. Liu Zhu rolled his eyes. Why are you always doubting me? Nonsense. Who asked you to be a member of the devil cult? There are also good people in solipsism. Liu Zhu directly asked, could it be that there are no bad people among these righteous sects? Li Fan was stunned by the question. Fuck. This Liu Zhu has a sharp tongue. I really can't win against him in an argument. Forget it. Follow me properly and don't cause any trouble. Li Fan couldn't be bothered to argue with him. This guy cheated his sword and secret manual and ran away. He still has the nerve to say that he is a good person. The two of them followed Night Rain Tower. They walked along the bluestone path to the heaven stairway at the back and began to climb up the mountain. The three of them had martial arts. Using Qinggong, they quickly arrived at Kunlun Mountain's Sky Ascension Peak. This Sky Ascension Peak was over 6,000 meters tall. It was as if it was connected to the sky. The air here was very thin and the pressure was very low. If not for Li Fan and the rest having true qi to protect their bodies, they would probably suffer from altitude sickness. Their surroundings were covered with pure white snow that covered the entire mountain. Li Fan felt that he had returned to the winter of a city. A snowstorm came and after a night, the city was covered in white. On this mountain peak, the wind blew the snowflakes onto Li Fan and the rest. A cave appeared in front of Li Fan. It was as if there was a line in the sky, or as if a woman was lying there with her legs spread apart. Although this analogy was not appropriate, it was indeed suitable for this place. Alliance leader is inside. Night Rain Tower pointed, she is in a very deep place. We need to go deeper. When Li Fan heard this, he felt like cursing. However, he held it in. Along the way, they entered the cave. The wind and snow were finally far away from them. The cave was very deep, but there was candlelight that illuminated the scenery in the cave. When Li Fan and the rest walked in and looked into the depths, they felt that they couldn't see the bottom. This was originally the place where Alliance leader went into seclusion. Night Rain Tower said, it was originally a very secluded place, but now it has become Alliance leader's shelter. Is this 9 heaven mystic ice really that powerful? Li Fan couldn't help but ask. Yes, only women can practice it. However, it is very domineering. Night Rain Tower explained, in this world, only women with pure yin body can practice it without any worries. Furthermore, it complements with martial arts and can be mastered quickly. Fuck, pure yin body. Doesn't that mean that Murong loves it? However, Alliance leader doesn't have pure yin body. That's why she went berserk, and became like this, Night Rain Tower said and pointed to the front. A huge underground lake appeared in front of them. In the middle of the lake, there was an ice sculpture of a woman. Luo Shuowu was sealed in ice, waiting for the person who could save her to appear. Audacious! How dare you trespass the forbidden area? Die! Suddenly, there was a roar in their ears. Chapter 641. Li Fan and the rest turned their heads at the same time and saw a 2-meter-tall giant suddenly falling from the sky. With a bang, he landed in front of them, causing the cave to shake. Li Fan was a little surprised. My goodness, this person is as strong as a small iron tower. His size is shocking. When he landed in front of Li Fan, his body almost blocked Li Fan's line of sight. Even the light behind him was blocked. A dark feeling rose in one's heart. After this small iron tower landed, without saying a word, he immediately stretched out his hand and grabbed towards Li Fan. Li Fan did not stand on ceremony. He raised his hand to meet his palm, and the two of them slid back a meter at the same time. Their true qi was still fluctuating. The surrounding stones on the walls fell down and fell to the ground, causing dust to rise. Mingming, don't be impulsive. Night Rain Tower stretched out his hand and stopped this iron tower like big man. So this person is the Iron Tower King, Guo Mingming. Although he is tall and strong, there is a kind of silly feeling between his brows. These two are my invited guests. Oh, Guo Mingming was still angry earlier, but now his brows relaxed. He giggled and stood to the side. He stretched out his hand and dug out his nose and even stuffed it into his mouth. Do you want to eat? Guo Mingming politely asked Night Rain Tower. I can't, he. Then I'll eat alone, Guomingming continued to eat with relish. Liu Zhu almost vomited. This. Although his martial arts is not bad, his brain was damaged when he was young. Night Rain Tower explained to Li Fan, I hope Chief Escort Li will not take offense. No. Although his brain is not good, he is loyal to his master. This is rare. Li Fan praised twice. Then he noticed that Guomingming was eating at the side and did not want to continue. Let's come and see our alliance leader. Night Rain Tower led Li Fan and the others towards the frozen area. Luo Xuewu, the commander of Sword Reliance, the White Queen, was currently sealed in the ice. Her expression was still vivid and lifelike, as if she was just sleeping. It's all my fault, it's all my fault. Guilt was written all over Night Rain Tower's face. He wanted nothing more than to smash his head against the ice sculpture. Alliance Master Luo is only sealed in ice. There must be a way to save her. As Li Fan spoke, he almost subconsciously put his hand on Luo Xuewu's lower abdomen. Night Rain Tower did not stop him. He believed that Li Fan would not act recklessly. Li Fan felt the vitality in his dantian. Although Luo Xuewu was frozen in the cave, she was very healthy and tenacious. She seemed to be waiting for Yi Jian's brothers and sisters to save her from this hopeless situation. She is very healthy and very tenacious. Li Fan said, don't worry, Alliance Master Luo will leave this place sooner or later and return to the Leaning Sword headquarters. Thank you for your auspicious words. Night Rain Tower himself did not dare to say such a thing. After all, the Nine Heaven mystical ice was too mysterious and Night Rain Tower did not understand it very well. He looked at the ice sculpture with a slightly sorrowful expression. Master, Guomingming stood at the side and looked at Luo Xuewu's ice sculpture. When are you coming out? I'll treat you, something delicious, but no matter how much they looked forward to it, Luo Xuewu would not be able to come out in a short period of time. Lord Commander, this is bad. Suddenly, someone from Leaning Sword reported from outside, the demonic cult's army has already arrived at our city gate. Good. Night Rain Tower put away the sorrowful expression on his face, turned around and said loudly, since the guests are here, then let's go and meet them. Let's go and let the demonic cult's friends experience our Leaning Sword's hospitality. Night Rain Tower walked out with large strides. Li Fan and Liu Zhu looked at each other and followed behind Night Rain Tower. Guomingming still stayed in the cave. His duty was to protect Luo Xuewu's safety. The army was pressing down. When Li Fan rushed to the city wall, he immediately had this feeling. Just like what Night Rain Tower said, the demonic cult indeed had more than 1,000 people. Each of them looked ferocious as if they wanted to skin Leaning Sword alive. No, it was not just 1,000 people. There were at least 2,000 to 3,000 martial fighters wearing black and red armor. They were like a black and red torrent of death that covered the snow. It seems that my information was wrong. Night Rain Tower frowned. Looking at these people in front of him, he felt a little guilty. The mistake in the information was not a small matter. In front of this torrent of death stood a familiar woman. That was none other than Li Fan's old enemy, Song Fuya. She was wearing a red robe today, which made her look a bit more seductive. Song Fuya put her hands on her waist, raised her head and looked up. Yo, not bad. You actually killed the bald eagle. It seems that I really underestimated you. You're just a bunch of rascals. Do you really think that you're so powerful? Song Fuya smiled. I have already set up an invisible and colorless heartless poison. It won't be long before you all become a pile of mud. Then I'm sorry. I've already been prepared for this. Night Rain Tower smiled. Open the gate. As soon as he gave the order, one gate after another was opened on the city wall. These gates were only as wide as a palm, but they brought a strong wind that gushed out from the gate. In the blink of an eye, the poisonous fog that Song Fuya added was blown away by the surging wind. Song Fuya frowned. In this way, her poison attack was basically ineffective. I'm sorry, Protector Song. You're a strategic weapon, so I have to make some preparations for you. Night Rain Tower's smile was definitely infuriating. Sure enough, Song Fuya had already begun to tremble slightly. Obviously, She was choking with anger. Night Rain Tower, don't think that you're somebody. In my, Song Fuya's eyes, you're just a guy who likes to play petty tricks. Yes, it's this kind of guy who blocked you and your people outside the high wall. Night Rain Tower said indifferently, if you're powerful, then come in and take a look. Night Rain Tower, you think that you're very capable, right? Song Fuya suddenly sneered and waved her hand. Followers of only me, listen to my command. Attack. More than 100 disciples of the devil cult immediately stepped forward. With a wave of their hands, they threw out hooks that hooked onto the city wall. Swordsman, attack. Night Rain Tower waved his hand. All the swordsmen on the city wall pulled out their swords and threw out large and small sword chi to cut those ropes. Many devil faction disciples' ropes were cut and they fell down from the sky. But even more devil faction disciples came forward and threw out hooks that hooked onto the wall. Chapter 642. It was a terrifying battle. The people from the devil cult were not afraid of death. They spread up like a swarm of insects. Some of them didn't even use their hooks. Instead, they just used their hands and feet to climb up the wall, using the frost on the high wall. When they got closer, Li Fan noticed that their bodies were stiff and their faces were pale. They were not normal people at all. Corpses. Li Fan suddenly realized that these were corpses. It was the corpse stitching technique. No wonder Song Fuya was so fearless. She was using the corpses as cannon fodder. These corpses were made with the corpse stitching technique. They had copper heads and iron bones, and were impenetrable. Hidden weapons team. Night Rain Tower also noticed this. He mobilized Sword Reliance's secret team. The 12 concealed weapon experts jumped onto the city gate tower, and with a flick of their hands, they threw out a handful of flying darts, and went straight down. The darts hit the faces of the corpses. Even if they could injure them, they could not move their bodies. More corpses climbed up and waved their claws, ready to attack. Assassin team. Night Rain Tower did not panic. He commanded the Sabermen to charge forward. Each Saberman chopped off the heads of the corpses that crawled up to them. No matter how powerful they were, they could only fall down from the wall after their heads were cut off. Who is controlling these corpses? Jin Kumo was also standing on the wall. She tore off a corpse's head with her tiger claw and threw it to the side. Blackface Ghost. Night Rain Tower saw a man in a black robe. He was one of the devil cult's 8 great guardian deities. He was an expert in the corpse stitching technique. He was more proficient in the corpse stitching technique than Liu Zhu. Liu Zhu could only control a dozen corpses at once, but he could control thousands at once. There was a huge difference between proficient and slightly proficient. Li Fan also rolled his eyes at Liu Zhu, meaning to say, look at her. Liu Zhu was not convinced. But she could not use her corpse stitching technique in this place. She could only wave her black jade fan and throw the corpses down the wall. I'll go kill him. Jin Kumo wanted to jump down but was pulled back by Night Rain Tower. We lack manpower. You can't go down. H. You're just worried that something will happen to me. Jin Hisao snorted and looked at Night Rain Tower with dissatisfaction. I'm not a kid. Just do your job. Once the city walls are breached, our Egen will have to hand over to someone else. Night Rain reminded Jin Hisoshi, don't be rash. Brother Yi is right. You stay here and leave the guy below to me. As Li Fan spoke, he jumped down from the high wall. At the same time, a man in golden armor also jumped in from outside, and the two of them brushed past each other in the air. The two of them looked at each other. Li Fan did not make a move because he had the Yi Sword logo on his shoulder. The head of the 4 heavenly kings of the Sword Reliance sect, Dragon Crossing River Zhon Xiaotian, he brushed past Li Fan's shoulder and jumped onto the city wall. I got the Blood Lotus. Zhon Xiaotian's voice was deep and domineering. The Alliance Master is saved. The city wall was filled with cheers, and Li Fan had already jumped down and landed on the ground. Who are you? Because Li Fan was still in disguise, Song Fuya was unable to see through his identity. Li Fan, on the other hand, chuckled and jumped toward the black-faced ghost. As if to protect the black-faced ghost, more than 100 ghouls blocked in front of Li Fan. Behind Li Fan, the Great War God popped out. Song Fuya was shocked and subconsciously took 2 steps back. She seemed to be frightened by the Great War God's might. Li Fan crossed his arms, and the Great War God raised his palm and pushed out. Extreme Bear King Seal. The huge palm swept forward. Even if the 100 Gowls had bronze heads and iron bones, under the pressure of the Great War God's palm, their upper bodies were all shattered, leaving only their lower bodies standing on the ground. 1 against 100. To Li Fan, this was just a matter of raising his hand. The Great War God killed more than 100 people who were already dead. Song Fuya's body was trembling slightly, and the blackface ghost who was using the corpse stitching technique also raised his head. A trace of fear flashed in his eyes. "Hi." Li Fan greeted the blackface ghost. In an instant, the thousands of Gowls around him gave up climbing the wall and all pounced towards Li Fan. From all directions, it was as if the stopper of a swimming pool was pulled out. All the water was rushing towards Li Fan. However, Li Fan did not have the slightest fear. He threw out Murong Ying's good person card. Bam! A golden bolt of lightning fell from the sky. Murong Ying, who was wearing the Flying Lion battle armor, slowly stood up with an insufferably imposing manner. Li Fan did not even look at the Gowls and walked towards the blackface ghost. A few Gowls pounced in front of Li Fan, but Murong Ying used the shield in her hand to block them and sent them flying. She also carried the Flying Lion sword, and from time to time, she chopped off the Gowl's head. Most of the Gowls died under her sword. No matter how fast the Gowls ran, or how fiercely they pounced, they were not a match for Murong Ying. At first glance, Murong Ying looked like she was just chopping melons and vegetables. She raised her sword, and the heads fell to the ground. Li Fan seemed to trust Murong Ying very much. Under the siege of the Gowls, he walked towards the blackface ghost step by step. Night Rain and the others were dumbfounded. This Murong Ying. Where did she come from? But looking at her, she did not seem to be the Alliance Master Murong. Magic? Superpower? Night Rain quickly came to a conclusion in his mind. It must be the superpower of a mutant. Could it be that this Li Fan was also a mutant? But no matter what, he was too domineering and walked to the side of the blackface ghost. The golden-armored Murong Ying stood beside him, and the golden sword in her hand cut another Gowl in half. She was like an undefeatable god of war. No matter how many Gowls there were, they could not break through her defense circle. Not a single Gowl could enter within a 1-meter radius. When Li Fan walked to the side of the blackface ghost, he was so scared that he fell to the ground on his butt. He looked left and right as if he wanted to escape. But Li Fan stretched out his hand and used the dragon toad's absorption of water. He immediately pulled the blackface ghost over and grabbed his head with his 5 fingers. Tiger Claw. Li Fan pierced through the top of the blackface ghost's skull. He did not even have the time to scream before he lost his life. There were already 500 to 600 Gowls that died under Murong Ying's sword. After Li Fan killed the blackface ghost, another 1,000 or so Gowls fell to the ground. The remaining 1,000 or so Gowls were all real living people, but they did not dare to attack Li Fan. This little overlord was simply too strong. Li Fan, how dare you? Song Fuya's body trembled slightly. The ones who are bold are you guys. Another cold voice came from the city wall. Chapter 643. Luo Xuewu, the commander of Sword Reliance, had already woken up from the ice. Wearing a white jade robe, she stood on top of the city wall and looked down at the group of demons with eyes like cold stars. To all the disciples of Sword Reliance, Luo Xuewu was their backbone. When the White Queen once again stood on the high wall, all the disciples of Sword Reliance cheered. Then, they were in high spirits and full of fighting spirit. Li Fan felt that this White Queen was the soul of Sword Reliance. Beside Luo Xuewu were the 4 heavenly kings, who were leaning on their swords: Zhong Xiaotian, who was clad in golden armor and looked extremely domineering; Night Rain Tower, the resourceful strategist; Jin Hisao, who was as beautiful as a flower and had the bearing of a myriad of beasts; and Guo Mingming, who was as immovable as a mountain while eating his fingers. Li Fan covered his forehead. What the hell was the last one? Song Fuya, Your devil cult's fate has come to an end. Luo Shuawu stood on the high wall, holding a large white sword with both hands, and said to the people below, "You dare to provoke me, you are all too stupid. You can't say that so early." Song Fuya laughed, "The show has just begun." Just as he finished speaking, a man wearing the long robe of Incense Master leaning sword suddenly leaped down from the high wall. Golden Incense Master? Seeing this person jump down, Luo Shuawu was stunned for a moment. "He is not Golden Incense Master," Night Rain Tower immediately reacted. "He is the thousand-face ghost of the 8 Great Vaja." Li Fan pointed with his finger, and Murong Ying had already jumped up high to meet the falling thousand-face ghost. At the same time, she grabbed the golden flying lion sword, preparing to kill the thousand-face ghost in the air. But at this time, Liu Zhu held the 4-elephant sword in his hand and threw out the white tiger sword chi. Li Fan lowered his head to look. He did not know when his 4-elephant sword chi had been swapped. He frowned. Murong Ying had already been hit by the white tiger sword chi, and her body tilted to one side. "Everyone, I'm sorry." Liu Zhu stood at the edge of the high wall, cupped his hands towards Luo Shuawu and the others, and then jumped out. A kite appeared behind him, and his entire body was blown up by the night wind, flying towards the devil cult. A thief in the family is hard to guard against. Luo Shuawu frowned deeply. Only when all of them were here to fight did the thousand-faced ghost have the chance to transform into the appearance of an incense master and steal the 9 Buddha mantra from the sword reliance. Liu Zhu. Li Fan's roar came from the night sky. "Brother Li, we will meet again soon. At that time, I will explain to you." Liu Zhu shouted to the people below, then rode the wind and left. "Ha ha ha, all of you are too stupid in the end. Leaning on the sword and laughing at the cool breeze is just SOSO. Song Fuya sneered. At the same time, she waved her hand and led the thousands of followers to retreat. In this battle, they had only lost thousands of corpses and one of the 8 guardian deities. But Laughing Sword Reliant Breeze had lost a copy of the 9 Buddha Sutra, as well as the dignity of their alliance. Very soon, rumors would spread throughout the Jianghu that they could not even keep a secret manual. This was the Alliance Conference. This was the martial world. The people of the devil cult came quickly and left quickly. Li Fan knew that Liu Zhu had schemed against him again. Even if he chased after them, he might not be able to get the 9 Buddha Sutra back. He was a little dejected. He had been played by a person several times in a row. His darts had actually been robbed. The first time. The first failure. Li Fan gritted his teeth. He wanted to grab Liu Zhu and beat him up. But for some reason, Li Fan always felt that Liu Zhu was not a bad person. But why did she serve the devil cult? There were many things that Li Fan felt that he could not figure out. "Head escort Li, come in and have a chat." Night Rain Tower ordered the guards to open the city gate. Looking at the slowly opening city gate, he had mixed feelings. "Head escort Li, please." Night Rain Tower was already standing in front of the city gate. He cupped his hands to welcome Li Fan. But Li Fan knew that everyone in the Sword Reliance was hostile to him. But it was not Li Fan's character to leave with his tail between his legs. He decided to put down the grudge in his heart and strode into the city that he had just left. The disciples of the Sword Reliance stood on both sides. Everyone looked at him quietly and did not say a word. The scene was a little awkward. It was definitely not very satisfactory. Li Fan could feel that many people were looking at him strangely. Some of them could not help but start pointing at him. "Head escort Li, please. The Alliance Master is already waiting for you in the meeting hall." Night Rain Tower cupped his hands to Li Fan again. Li Fan said that he had to give the Sword Reliance an explanation for this matter. He strode forward and followed Night Rain Tower. He stepped on the bluestone floor and arrived at the meeting hall. Luo Shuawu, the woman who was sealed in ice earlier, was now sitting on the throne in the meeting hall alive and staring at him. Zhong Xiaotian wore a set of golden armor and stood on the left side of Luo Shuawu. Jin Jiumo wore a green robe and stared at him fiercely like a little chili pepper. Guo Mingming stood on the right side of Luo Shuawu. He did not wear any armor, but his defense was shockingly strong. At this moment, Guo Mingming was playing with a little yellow chick. He kept fiddling with it and would occasionally put it in his mouth to take a bite. Head escort Li, this way please. Night Rain Tower knew how to conduct himself. He asked his subordinates to bring a chair for Li Fan and let Li Fan sit down. Then, someone came over to serve fragrant tea. Li Fan took a few sips and found that it was indeed good tea. No matter what, Li Fan was a guest after all. Moreover, he was a guest with status. You are Li Fan? Luo Shuewu sized up Li Fan for a long time and finally said this. Yes, I am. Li Fan also took a few more glances at Luo Shuewu. After all, she was one of the top beauties. Her pure and clean appearance attracted men's attention. Unfortunately, this woman was born an iceberg and was destined to have no affinity with men. Little Tian, go. Luo Shuewu instructed. Yes. Zhong Xiaotian, who was standing on the left side of Luo Shuewu, immediately leaped up and slapped towards Li Fan with his palm. Flying Dragon Palm. This was Zhong Xiaotian's martial arts. His palm seemed to carry a golden light as it directly imprinted on Li Fan's forehead. At that moment, Li Fan had an illusion. It was as if a golden dragon was charging towards him. However, Li Fan was not an ordinary person. He immediately channeled his true qi, sat on the chair, and exchanged a palm strike with Zhong Xiaotian. Bang! The chair under Li Fan was broken, and his legs were on the ground. Zhong Xiaotian's body slid back a meter and landed on the ground. After stabilizing his body, he raised his head and looked at Li Fan solemnly. Good, good, good. Satisfying. Li Fan frowned and stood up straight, looking at Luo Shuewu who was sitting on the throne. What, you're going to fight just because you don't agree with me? Luo Shuewu did not say anything, but Zhong Xiaotian took another step forward and used the flying dragon palm again, striking towards Li Fan. Chapter 644. This palm was imbued with Zhong Xiaotian's strength. With one palm, the wind and thunder rumbled. Li Fan laughed out loud. Ha! Good. So what if the Sword Reliance sect was his enemy? This 20-meter-high wall and 300 elites were not enough to stop him. Li Fan took a horse stance and directly struck out with his palm, once again meeting Zhong Xiaotian's flying dragon palm. Bam! A powerful force spread out from the point where their palms met. Boom! The ground beneath their feet began to collapse. Rubble flew up and floated to their feet. The force continued to spread out in all directions, attacking the surroundings. Both of their clothes were sent flying, and the force continued to spread outwards. Some of the weaker sword disciples had already been blown away. Guo Mingming took a step forward and stood in front of Luo Shuewu. His body was covered in energy, and the iron cloth technique was activated to the extreme. The palm wind from the two of them struck Guo Mingming's body, but Guo Mingming used his own body to block it. Good, good, good. This is too satisfying. Zhong Xiaotian's face was filled with excitement. It was probably very difficult for him to meet an opponent that could match him. His overall strength was the strongest in the Sword Reliance sect, and his combat quality was also the highest. After realizing that his palm energy could not do anything to Li Fan, Zhong Xiaotian did not continue to foolishly exchange palms. Instead, he took a step forward and arrived behind Li Fan. He turned around and slapped his palm towards Li Fan's back. Li Fan felt the hairs on his back stand on end. Without any hesitation, he used an iron bridge to fall backwards, dodging Zhong Xiaotian's flying dragon palm. At the same time, he struck out with both of his palms towards Zhong Xiaotian's chest as he fell backwards. Bam! Zhong Xiaotian was at a disadvantage. The armor on his lower abdomen was shattered. After that, he took 2 steps back and readjusted his innate qi to stabilize his body. Good, awesome. Zhong Xiaotian gave Li Fan a thumbs up. As expected of the little tyrant, you are indeed powerful. You're too kind. The title of dragon crossing the river isn't given for nothing. It's quite interesting. Li Fan and Zhong Xiaotian looked at each other and smiled, but then Zhong Xiaotian's expression became serious. But just this alone is not enough to pass my test. As he spoke, he leaped into the air once more and struck out with both palms. Flying dragon palm. In the first place, it was most powerful in the air. This time, the pressure brought by Zhong Xiaotian's palms was terrifying. Good timing. Li Fan roared, and the Great War God suddenly rose from behind him. The Great War God's palms met Zhong Xiaotian's palms. They clashed several times in a row. The shockwave once again surged outwards, creating a circle of cracks on the walls of the conference hall. The Great War God's body trembled, and Zhong Xiaotian's body flew out. His body slammed heavily into the wall behind him and was embedded into it. It was obvious that he had suffered a heavy blow. Li Fan crossed his arms and looked at Zhong Xiaotian, who had been blasted into the wall. Your strength is not bad. Zhong Xiaotian pulled out his arm and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, but I only used 50% of my strength. Li Fan raised 3 fingers, 30%. Fuck, Zhong Xiaotian wanted to curse out loud. Wasn't this way too strong? Chief Escort Li's strength is probably above 5 dragons. Yi Lu chuckled and said, however, Chief Escort Li's true chi is more condensed than ordinary people, so even if it's 5 dragons, he can fight against 6 to 7 dragons. And Zhong Xiaotian's strength is exactly 5 dragons. Therefore, compared to Chief Escort Li, he is still a level lower. You're too polite. Li Fan cupped his hands. This Yi Lu's analytical ability was indeed quite strong. He was a little happy to see this, and even wanted to poach Yi Lu to his side. But this should be a taboo in the pugilistic world, so he decided to forget about it. Although Luo Shuawu had many experts by her side, without Yi Lu's help, they would not be able to display their full strength. Do you still want to fight? Li Fan crooked his hand at them. The 4 of you can fight together. The others were fine, but Jin Jiumao's eyebrows immediately raised. She lowered her body slightly and entered the form of a fierce tiger. It seemed that in an instant, she would pounce on Li Fan and tear him to shreds. All right, that's enough. Luo Shuawu suddenly raised her hand and stopped the others. Since you've passed the inspection, then, let's get married today. With that, Luo Shuawu turned around and left the meeting hall, while Li Fan was still in a daze. Marriage? What does that mean? Zhong Xiaotian and Li Fan fought, but they had developed feelings for each other. He had already pulled himself out of the wall, patted the dust off his body, walked in front of Li Fan, and patted his shoulder. Brother, you have to treat the Alliance Master better in the future. Huh? Li Fan still did not understand. Yi Lu also walked forward and cupped his hands at Li Fan. Chief Escort Li, we will be a family in the future, please take care of us. What family? I don't understand. Li Fan asked, can you speak human language? Oh, I was being rude, let me explain. Yi Lu said with a smile. Our Alliance Master Luo once made a vow that anyone who wants to marry her man must first win the heart of Wulin's Alliance Master Murongying. Now, this person has finally appeared, and it is time for our Alliance Master Luo to fulfill the promise. What? Isn't this too ridiculous? The person our Alliance Master Luo marries must be a hero. Yi Lu said with a smile, Chief Escort can even defeat Zhong Xiaotian, whether it is strength or charm, you are qualified. Wait. At least you have to ask me first, right? For our Alliance Master Luo, the vow is irreversible. What the hell, I don't agree. Li Fan turned to leave, this is a complete farce. But after 2 steps, he suddenly felt his legs go weak. Sorry, Chief Escort. Yi Lu kept his hands in his sleeves and winked at Li Fan. In the tea you drank just now, I put a little muscle softening powder. Chief Escort Li has deep internal strength, I didn't expect you to resolve it in 2 days. But for the next 2 days, Head Escort Li will have to endure the feeling of being powerless for a while. Li Fan sat on the chair. What is this muscle softening powder? How can it be so domineering? No poison? A little. Yi Lu said very modestly, I just learned a little bit of everything, just the surface, please excuse me, Chief Escort Li. You win. Li Fan laughed bitterly, I actually fell for it again. Damn, seems like I forgot to look at the almanac when I left. Head Escort Li, sorry for the inconvenience. Head Escort Li, please take a break. Tomorrow is a good day, so the wedding will be held tomorrow. Chapter 645. Right now, Li Fan is sitting in a very elegant room, but his mood is not good. Right now, he is under house arrest. At the door, there are 2 sword guards guarding here, so he can't go anywhere. Moreover, he doesn't have the strength to escape. He feels like he hasn't eaten for a few days and can't even muster a bit of strength. This night rain building is a bit too overbearing. What the hell is this muscle softening powder? How could it be so effective? Li Fan sits cross-legged on the chair, feeling that he can't muster a bit of qi in his body. This situation was really too embarrassing. Just when Li Fan wants to curse, the closed window is suddenly pushed open, followed by a figure falling in and stepping on the table. Li Fan frowns. The person is none other than Liu Zhu. As Li Fan's hand touches the hero's sword, Liu Zhu smiles and sends a sound transmission to Li Fan. You've already been hit by muscle softening powder, but you still want to fight me? Li Fan can't send a sound transmission, so he can only frown and look at Liu Zhu. I'm here to help you, brother Li, Liu Zhu says. Maybe I did something a bit excessive, but believe me, that was not my intention. Li Fan looks at Liu Zhu, not saying anything. These 2 are the sword guard and the 9 Buddha Sutra that I took away. Although it's just a copy, this is what I can give you. Watching Liu Zhu put the 2 copies of the 9 Buddha Sutra into his pocket, Li Fan looked at him again. I actually hate you. Liu Zhu looks at Li Fan and sighs, but I don't want to be your enemy. Li Fan tilts his head. Liu Zhu says, you might think that I'm too pretentious. But I probably think that you're like my friend. My only friend. Li Fan's frown deepened. Liu Zhu stretches out his hand to Li Fan. Come with me. Li Fan looked at the door. The 2 guards with swords were still talking. This brat is worthy of our alliance, Master Luo. Damn, he even defeated Zhong Xiaotian. I'm still a little unwilling. The 2 of them whispered to each other, but Li Fan still heard what they said. Li Fan did not hesitate. He stood up and held Liu Zhu's hand. This kid's hands were very white and tender. One look and you could tell that he was a young master from a wealthy family. He took good care of himself. Liu Zhu held on to Li Fan. Although he was not tall, he was able to carry Li Fan on his back. I'm leaving. Hold me tight. Li Fan felt a little embarrassed. After all, he was a man, and he had to be carried by another man. But now was not the time to think about this. He wrapped his arms around Liu Zhu's neck. Liu Zhu seemed to be silent for a moment. But soon, Liu Zhu reacted and jumped out of the window with Li Fan on his back. Although Liu Zhu's kung fu was not very good and she learned a lot of different things, her qinggong was indeed quite good. Although she was not as good as the flying cat Yin Shuru, she still had her own style. Liu Zhu carried Li Fan on her back, stepped on her feet, and directly bounced 7 or 8 meters high, quickly landing on a nearby roof. Liu Zhu's body was as light as a cat's. Every time her feet landed on a roof, she would silently bend her knees and jump up again. She would jump very high and cross a very long distance before landing on another roof. Because the population of Smiling Sword Breeze was small, the distance between houses was very long. Under the cover of the night, Liu Zhu quickly moved toward the direction of the city wall. However, there was a man standing on the high wall, blocking their way. Night Rain Tower wore a purple wide-sleeved coat. His hands were hidden in his sleeves as he stood there with a smile on his face. You're finally here. I've been waiting for you for a long time. Liu Zhu landed and looked at Yi Yu, who was standing there. Brother Yi, you seem to be able to predict everything. Although Li Fan did not have the strength to fight, it did not affect his ability to speak. No, it's not that I'm able to predict everything. It's just that I'm always on guard. Night Rain Tower smiled modestly. Before the wedding, I naturally do not wish for any side issues to arise. Sorry, if you're in the way, I can only kill you. Liu Zhu did not hold back. He directly pulled out his 4-elephant sword and threw out a white tiger sword chi. The white tiger sword chi started to split and 3 white tigers pounced towards Night Rain Tower. But Night Rain Tower directly kicked the sword beside him. The sword flew out of its sheath and flew in front of Night Rain Tower. Night Rain Tower split the sword chi into 7 shadows and flew out, piercing the white tiger sword chi. A sword that can turn illusions into reality, for elephant sword. Night Rain Tower pierced through the white tiger sword chi with a single move and chuckled as he said, "Impressive indeed." 7-star sword chi? Li Fan was also shocked. "How do you know Senior Rainbow's move?" "My master is your escort, right?" Night Rain Tower bowed to Li Fan. "My master is already old, please take care of him, Chief Escort." "Damn, something's not right." Li Fan frowned. "Senior Rainbow said that he doesn't have a disciple and wanted to take me as his disciple." "Indeed. Although I learned a few sword techniques from my master, it's a pity that I haven't officially become his disciple." Night Rain Tower explained, "After all, my ambition is not in the sword Dao, but here. Kunlun Snow Mountain. Seeing that we have a bit of history, how about letting us go?" Li Fan wanted to play the favor card. "Sorry, in my heart, my master is indeed important. But the Alliance Chief is supreme." Night Rain Tower said as he separated his hands and once again created 7 sword shadows, floating around him. "I won't let you get away with it." Liu Zhu leaned beside Li Fan, looked at the 7 incoming sword chi and released Black Tortoise sword chi. Black Tortoise's body enveloped the 2 of them. The 7 sword chi bounced on it and were all blocked. But Liu Zhu's Black Tortoise sword chi was still very weak and could not block for long. "Head Escort Li, stay." Night Rain Tower used his 7 sword shadows. He seemed to have gone easy on Liu Zhu. But Liu Zhu's strength was indeed not enough. The Black Tortoise sword chi was already on the verge of shattering. At this critical moment, Song Fuya's voice suddenly came from the side. "Ha ha ha, you are all dead." Night Rain Tower immediately turned around. The 7 sword shadows chased after the voice. Liu Zhu immediately carried Li Fan on his back and jumped 7 to 8 meters away, quickly jumping down from the high wall. Bang! Night Rain Tower's 7 sword chi tore a large piece of the wall. A phone was thrown there, cut into 3 pieces. "Ah!" Night Rain Tower let out a bitter laugh. He was actually tricked by Liu Zhu. "Alliance Chief Luo, I'm sorry, I tried my best." Looking at Liu Zhu, who already disappeared in the snow, Night Rain Tower sighed. However, he still shouted. Li Fan escaped. Chase after him immediately. Chapter 646. The tall door of the sword-leaning high wall slowly opened. Over 100 experts on war horses rushed out and began to search the Kunlun Mountain in a blanket manner. In the meeting hall, Jin Jiumo smashed a cup. "This Li Fan is so shameless. He actually ran away." "Mao Mao, don't talk so much." Night Rain Tower reprimanded, but received a glare from Jin Jiumo. Luo Shuawu sat on the throne without saying a word. Her face was as cold as ice. No one knew what she was thinking. "I'll go and catch him." Zhong Xiaotian couldn't hold it in anymore. Li Fan was a rare man that he liked. He was quite suitable for Alliance Master Luo. In the end, this kid actually ran away. How preposterous. Zhong Xiaotian was a man of action. He immediately left. "Alliance Master Luo, please tell me." Night Rain Tower cupped his hands towards Luo Shuowu and asked respectfully. "The monk can run away, but the temple can't." Luo Shuowu said indifferently, "Call Xiaotian back." "Rain Tower, you'll have to handle this matter. We'll set off tomorrow to Fafen Escort Agency to give the betrothal gift and marry the groom." "Okay." Night Rain Tower agreed and ordered people to prepare the betrothal gift. Sister, Jin Kumo, who had been calling Luo Shuowu sister, was a little hesitant. She couldn't help but ask, although Li Fan is a little annoying. No matter what, he's the fiancé of Murongying, the Alliance Master of Wulin. Is it really okay for us to fight over him like this? You said it yourself, he's the fiancé. Luo Shuowu's eyes flashed. Since he's the fiancé, then we can naturally fight. Okay. Jin Jiumo didn't say anything, but she understood that Luo Shuowu was fighting with Murongying. Luo Shuowu and Murongying had known each other since they were very young, and they had always been best friends. Luo Shuowu was Murongying's cousin and the daughter of Murongying's second aunt. At that time, Luo Shuowu lived in Murong Villa and grew up in Murong Villa. However, later on, The two of them parted ways and took different paths. Murong Ying became the Wulin Alliance Master, and Luo Xuewu became the Sword Alliance Master. Two Alliance Masters. But obviously, the Unrivaled Martial Alliance Master had more weight. The reason why Luo Xuewu left that oath was more or less to spite Murong Ying. At the same time, Li Fan was hiding in a rundown temple, sitting face to face with Liu Zhu. "Aren't you afraid that I will kill you?" The wind and snow outside were very strong, and the temple door was flapping noisily. Li Fan looked at the calm Liu Zhu in front of him and suddenly asked, "How could that be? You have no reason to kill me." Liu Zhu winked at Li Fan. "So, I'm not afraid. I don't like smart people." Li Fan sat there as if he was talking to himself. "Here." In the temple, Liu Zhu boiled a cup of hot milk and handed it to Li Fan. "You don't have true qi right now. Drink some milk to warm yourself up." Li Fan didn't say anything, but he took the milk and slowly drank a mouthful. It was indeed very cold here. In the snowy Kunlun mountain, Li Fan was wearing thin clothes. Without the protection of true qi, Li Fan was indeed very cold. It was just that he was too shy to say it. He didn't expect Liu Zhu to be so careful. She thought of it and didn't say anything to mock him. "Aren't you afraid that I will poison you?" Liu Zhu suddenly asked. "No. Why? I'm already like this. So what if you poison me?" Li Fan smiled as if he was laughing at himself. "Moreover, if you wanted to kill me, you could have done it before. Why did you bring me out?" "Well, it seems that you are not a fool," Liu Zhu said. "This mountain god temple has been abandoned for a long time and is very remote. Even the people of Sword Alliance won't be able to find this place in a short time. Especially now that the snow has sealed the mountain, I'm afraid they will give up on searching everywhere." As he spoke, he even walked to the window and used tape to seal the swaying window. "We will rest here for the night. It should be very safe." Li Fan leaned closer to the small fire that had been lit. But at this time, Liu Zhu suddenly pricked up her ears. She helped Li Fan up and jumped to the back of the dilapidated statue. "Someone is coming." Li Fan was a smart person and immediately understood. "Yes." Liu Zhu nodded and placed Li Fan here. But on second thought, she picked Li Fan up and used Qinggong to jump to the plaque and put Li Fan behind the plaque. There was dust everywhere, cobwebs were everywhere, and the temperature was terrible. Fortunately, it was winter and the mosquitoes were frozen to death. Otherwise, Li Fan would really cry. After settling him down, Liu Zhu jumped back to the ground and continued to lean on the fire, pretending that nothing happened. The door of this broken temple was suddenly kicked open. The wind and snow rushed in and extinguished the fire. Song Fuya, along with two devil cult disciples, directly rushed in and glanced at Liu Zhu, who was sitting on the ground. The other two devil cult disciples immediately walked to the back of the statue and looked at it. Fortunately, they did not notice the plaque above their heads. "Protector Song, did you come in such a hurry just to disturb my mood of warming myself?" "Warming yourself? Do you need a fire?" Song Fuya heard what Liu Zhu said and sneered. "You are a martial artist and have true qi to protect your body. Why do you need a fire to warm yourself? I'm afraid this fire is for someone else, right? I can always boil some milk to drink." Liu Zhu kicked the milk bottle next to her. "It's such a cold day, why don't you drink some milk to warm your body?" "Don't give me that." Song Fuya coldly looked at Liu Zhu. "Don't think that I don't know that Li Fan drank the Night Rain Building's muscle softening powder and then was stolen by you. Where did you hide him? Say it." "This place is only so big, you can find it yourself." Liu Zhu casually said. "Protector Song, if you want to blame someone, you can always find a pretext. I think, you have long been unhappy with me and took out these things to ruin my reputation. But it doesn't matter, justice is in people's hearts. There will be people who will give me justice. Humph, I think you have the heart to betray the cult, right? I swear to heaven and earth." Liu Zhu shrugged his shoulder. "If not for me, how could you get the 9 Buddha Sutra? Song Fuya, I helped you clean up your mess, but you slander me. People like you are really ungrateful." Song Fuya frowned deeply. Although she knew that Liu Zhu was difficult to deal with, She did not expect him to be so sharp-tongued, making people unable to refute. You think I can't find him? Song Fuya saw the plaque above her head. She suddenly jumped up and landed on top of the plaque. But there was nothing behind the plaque. There was not a single person. Strange. Song Fuya carefully checked again and found that there was indeed no one. Chapter 647. Chumph, I will definitely find him. Song Fuya waved her hand. Go search nearby, he must be nearby. Yes. The two subordinates and Song Fuya left the ruined temple and went outside to search. Liu Zhu immediately jumped up and landed on the signboard, discovering that Li Fan was indeed not here. I am here. Li Fan jumped out from behind a broken piece of wood and lightly landed in front of Liu Zhu. Ah! Liu Zhu was a little surprised. You recovered your strength. Recovered a little. As Li Fan spoke, a red-tailed scorpion secretly hid in his collar. Fire-tailed scorpion, this is one of the 7 emotions and 6 pleasures GU in Li Fan's body. Li Fan relied on this scorpion to slowly undo the muscle-softening powder in his body. Although it was not completely undone, at least it was undone a little. You really make people surprised. Liu Zhu looked at Li Fan in disbelief. You have made me look at you in a new light. There are still many things that will make you surprised. Li Fan said, I see that your nature is not bad. Why don't you follow me, join my faith and escort agency and don't follow the demonic sect? This. I am afraid it is not possible. Liu Zhu smiled bitterly. I am forced to join solipsism. How can there be so many forced? Martial artists should go against heaven's will. If that is the case, then it would be good. Liu Zhu shook her head, however, you do not understand my matters. If you don't tell me, how would I understand? In short, you just do not understand. Liu Zhu started to argue, but Li Fan suddenly became excited and pulled Liu Zhu. How about this, the two of us, since we are in this temple today, let the mountain god be our witness, let us become sworn brothers. Ah! Liu Zhu was startled. What the hell is Li Fan doing? Millimeter, then it is decided. Li Fan was also a person who did whatever he wanted. He grabbed Liu Zhu and knelt in front of the mountain god statue. With the mountain god as my witness, I, Li Fan, and Liu Zhu, hereby swear to be sworn brothers. As he spoke, Li Fan pulled out his hero's sword and cut his finger. No, no wine, isn't there milk here? Li Fan pulled over the milk jug and dripped a drop of blood into it. Holy shit, Liu Zhu really wanted to complain. What the hell? Can this thing replace wine? But Li Fan was in high spirits, so Liu Zhu couldn't refuse. After the two of them finished the blood-stained milk, it was considered as having drunk the kowtow wine. The two of them kowtowed to the ground. They were really using the mountain god as a witness and the heaven and earth as a witness. All right, we're brothers from now on. How old are you? Li Fan asked Liu Zhu. Liu Zhu rolled her eyes, thinking to herself, you don't even know how old I am, yet you still have the nerve to swear brotherhood with me. I'm 18 this year. Liu Zhu said her age. Li Fan muttered, yo, younger than me. Then from now on, I'll be your big brother and you'll be my little brother. Humph. Feeling that she was taken advantage of, Liu Zhu was a bit unhappy. How about you be the big brother? I'll be your little brother then. Liu Zhu still accepted it. Good, good, good. Li Fan seemed a bit happy. Since you're my little brother, don't cheat me in the future. In your heart, am I the kind of person who cheats you? You are. Li Fan really wanted to complain, but he held back. After all, there were too many points to complain about. You keep the 4-elephant sword. Li Fan glanced at the 4-elephant sword. It's not a bad idea to leave it for Liu Zhu to protect herself. In the future, if we meet on the battlefield, will we also call each other brothers? Liu Zhu also knew that Li Fan was just acting on a whim. He recognized her as his brother, but she was, after all, a member of the devil sect. How could they have that kind of brotherly friendship? I treat you as my brother. Li Fan patted Liu Zhu's shoulder. I also hope that every time you do something bad, you can think of me. I hope you can be more strict with yourself and have a limit in your heart. So, you recognize me as your brother just to limit me? It's to save you. Li Fan said frankly, I don't want you to go further and further away. You really don't understand anything. Liu Zhu sighed, you and I should call it a day, I should also go. If you follow me, you'll only bring endless trouble. Now that everyone knows that I'm with you, there will be a lot of people chasing you. Li Fan couldn't help but ask, isn't that what a little brother should do? Liu Zhu winked at Li Fan, then pushed the door open. Carrying the four-elephant sword on her back, she walked out against the wind and snow. Li Fan looked at Liu Zhu. In his heart, he really didn't know what to say. In his heart, did he really think of himself as a big brother? Right now, Li Fan also needed to recuperate. He suddenly leaped up and landed on the signboard. Sitting cross-legged, he clasped his hands together and circulated the innate qi in his body. The fire-tailed scorpion also moved around Li Fan's body and began to detoxify him. With the two-pronged approach, Li Fan began to quickly recover his strength. The people of the Sword Reliance sect were looking for him, and the Devil sect was also looking for him. Quickly recovering his strength was the most important thing. When Li Fan was cultivating, Liu Zhu also walked out against the wind and snow. On the Kunlun Mountain, the people of the Sword Reliance sect did not know why, but they no longer searched for Li Fan. However, the people of the Devil sect continued to wander around the Kunlun Mountain, searching for traces of Li Fan in a carpet fashion. Not long after Liu Zhu walked out, Song Fuya appeared in front of him and blocked his path. Where is Li Fan? Song Fuya asked again. How would I know? Liu Zhu began to play dumb. Where is Li Fan? Isn't that the clue that Protector Song is looking for? Of course. That is why I am asking you now. Song Fuya was not a fool. She stared at Liu Zhu. You should know the price of betraying solipsism, right? When did I betray solipsism? Liu Zhu did not admit it. Protector Song, are you targeting me? Don't give me that. Song Fuya firmly believed in her judgment. Where did you hide him? Tell me honestly and you still have a chance. Protector Song, you need evidence to speak. Liu Zhu said, look, I am right here. Do you want to search me? Don't think that with the sect leader doting on you, you can do whatever you want. I am conscientious and conscientious for solipsism. The sect leader is just understanding my work. Liu Zhu said calmly, I am not like a certain someone who does not appreciate the kindness of others when they clean up after her. Are you talking about me? A trace of killing intent flashed in Song Fuya's eyes. Who am I talking about? Who knows? If you have nothing to do, can you not block the way? I am still waiting to go back and take a hot bath. Liu Zhu was expressionless. I have already sent people to surround the mountain god temple. Chapter 648. Song Fuya's words shocked Liu Zhu. I've searched the surroundings, but there's no trace of Li Fan. So, I guess, he should still be in the mountain god temple. Song Fuya looked at Liu Zhu and chuckled. Do you think you're very smart? You want to use yourself as bait to attract everyone's attention, then let Li Fan hide in the mountain god temple and leave when it's safe. Although I can't find him, I know he's in the mountain god temple. I can send people to burn that broken temple. Liu Zhu's brows slightly wrinkled, but it's only for a moment, then she relaxed. Up to you. Liu Zhu turned and left, as if she didn't care at all. Seeing Liu Zhu leave so casually, Song Fuya couldn't help but mutter in her heart. Could it be that he really wasn't with Li Fan? Protector, should we burn it? A devil cult disciple stepped forward and asked. Burn. Song Fuya waved her hand. A group of devil cult disciples surrounded the broken temple, and at the same time, drew their bows and arrows. At the same time, these people wrapped the arrowheads in linen, dipped it in alcohol, lit it with a torch, and then began to shoot arrows at the broken temple. One by one, the fire arrows landed on the broken temple, setting it on fire. Even though there was wind and snow, the devil cult's fire seemed to have been added with something. It burned more and more vigorously, and finally, it burned fiercely, engulfing the entire broken temple. Liu Zhu had already walked far away. She suddenly turned her head, looking at the burning red broken temple, her heart slightly tightened. Li Fan. I've already done what I should do, the rest is up to you. The fire burned for a long time, and finally, the broken temple collapsed, turning into a pile of black charcoal. The remaining heat was still rising, intertwining with the red sparks, giving off steam. Song Fuya crossed her arms, stood there, looked for a long time, and finally said, "Seems like he really isn't here. Even if he is, he should have been burned to death by our devil cult's holy fire. Protector, what should we do next? Let's go back to the main hall first, and wait for the next order from the sect leader." Yes. Song Fuya left with a group of people. Not long after they left, the pile of charcoal suddenly loosened. Then, it was knocked away, and a hand wrapped in golden armor reached out. Then, a man wearing golden armor appeared. "Pa, so dirty." Li Fan spat out 2 mouthfuls of dirty water, then patted the dust off his body and stood up. The golden armor on his body was disintegrating bit by bit. "How can you not bring me along to the main hall?" Li Fan looked at the devil cult's main force that was leaving and followed them silently. Although Li Fan's strength had not fully recovered, his qigong was still pretty good. Treading on the snow without leaving a trace, Li Fan chased after the devil cult's troops, following their footsteps. These people had been marching rapidly. Not long after, they descended the Kunlun Mountains. Then, they divided into several groups and pretended to be employees of a certain company. They boarded different buses and drove separately. However, that was not a problem for Li Fan. He watched as Song Fuya boarded the bus and followed it, easily hiding under it. The place was indeed a little depressing, but in order to find the main hall of the devil cult, Li Fan could still bear it. Although there would be a terrifying enemy in the main hall, Li Fan somehow felt a little excited. It was every martial fighter's wish to be able to fight with an expert. Li Fan was a man with such pursuit. He followed the bus for 3 days and 3 nights. For the past 3 days and 3 nights, Li Fan did not drink or eat anything. Although eating was equivalent to replenishing energy for ordinary martial fighters, it was very important. However, for Li Fan, he could tolerate his hunger and only absorb energy from the surrounding air to temporarily replenish his nutritional needs. However, it was only temporary, and Li Fan's limit was 5 days. After 5 days, Li Fan would have to eat and drink, or his body would collapse. The energy consumption of martial fighters was far greater than that of ordinary people. That was the law of conservation of energy, which was the law of nature. 3 days later, Li Fan followed the bus and arrived in an urban area. After 3 days of driving on the highway, they had no idea which city they had arrived at. The city was rather prosperous and it was obviously not a small town. "Hurry up and go in, don't dawdle." Song Fuya's voice sounded in his ears, which then slowly faded away. Li Fan gently descended from the bottom of the bus and glanced out. A disciple of the devil cult was sitting there with a cigarette in his mouth, smoking it happily. Li Fan stretched out his hands, grabbed his legs, and pulled him under the bus. He then covered his mouth and broke his neck. Crack! The devil sect disciple's neck was directly broken by Li Fan, and he died with his head turned. Li Fan did not have to be polite to the people of the devil cult. If they were to stay in this world, they would be a scourge. After getting rid of this person, Li Fan immediately took off his clothes and changed into his own body. There were so many disciples of the devil cult, and they were a motley crew. Li Fan wanted to try and see if he could mix in with them. After changing into the clothes of the devil cult, Li Fan climbed out completely. He used alien bone changing to change his appearance slightly, and then walked towards a building in front of him. Li Fan saw it clearly just now. Those people all walked into the building. This was called the Twin Towers, and he did not know which nouveau riche built it. For the devil cult to set up their base in such a place, it was really awesome. What was this called? A small hermit in the forest, a big hermit in the city. Li Fan could not help but ponder for a moment. It seemed that because of the clothes on Li Fan's body, he was able to enter the building without any obstructions. Furthermore, there was a huge signboard at the entrance, which wrote celebrating Solipsism's 3rd summit. What the hell? Solipsism is holding a summit. Isn't this organization supposed to be very mysterious? Why are they holding a summit in this place? What are you doing? Still not going in. A man who looks like a cadre berates Li Fan. What are you doing here? Li Fan calmly nodded his head at this cadre, then followed his finger and walked towards a huge venue at the back. He wanted to see what this so-called summit was all about. When Li Fan arrived at the venue, he was shocked the moment he pushed open the door. The venue was densely packed with people from the devil cult, and there were at least 3,000 to 4,000 of them. That dense mass of people caused fear to rise in people's heart. The devil cult is indeed powerful in numbers. However, these people's skills were uneven. Li Fan could feel that there were experts and rookies. Quickly sit down. The sect leader is going to hold a summit for us. A devil cult disciple berated Li Fan. Li Fan did not utter a word as he quietly sat in the corner. Chapter 649. What kind of person is Li Wei, the cult leader? Li Fan was very curious and eager to meet him. It was said that he was extremely powerful and even slightly stronger than Murong Ying. It would be great if he could meet him today. There were so many cult disciples around him, and all of them had a burning gaze in their eyes. It was as if Li Wei was not only their cult leader, but also their god. Fervent faith. Li Fan saw all sorts of terrifying existences in their eyes. Soon, the fanaticism in these people's eyes blazed even more. Li Fan looked up and saw a man in a scarlet robe slowly walking onto the stage. The man was wearing a black mask that covered his face, and his robe was printed with the word Supreme. There was also a mighty golden dragon below the words, which symbolized his identity. I'm the Supreme! I'm the Supreme! I'm the Supreme! All of a sudden, everyone yelled, and their voices were like waves that were getting louder and louder. Li Fan fixed his gaze on the man, who was so mysterious that Li Fan could not figure out his background. Li Fan subconsciously wanted to stand up, but a hooded man beside him suddenly reached out and pressed Li Fan's arm. Li Fan frowned and turned around, only to see that the man's exquisite face was revealed from under the hood. He then gestured for Li Fan to keep quiet. Jiang Feng? Li Fan was shocked and thought, how can it be him? Besides, how did he recognize me? Why are you here? Li Fan asked Jiang Feng through voice transmission. My purpose is the same as yours. How did you recognize me? Even though you've changed your appearance, your aura remains the same. You're a complete newbie, Jiang Feng said sarcastically. I want to kill you and Li Wei together. Li Fan said calmly. What a coincidence, I also want to kill you and Li Wei together. Jiang Feng's voice was cold and emotionless. However, Li Fan knew that this person's indifference was just a facade. In the depths of his heart, he seemed to be suppressing some terrible emotions. But now is not the time, Jiang Feng said. When the time comes, none of you will survive. You have too many things to consider. You're the one with too little stuff in your head. The two of them were engrossed in transmitting their voices, mocking each other one after another. While they were arguing, Li Wei stood on the podium and brainwashed the people below him as if he was giving a lecture. Those useless people. They've been stepping on our heads for too long. Li Wei raised his hands and said loudly, it's time to change this era. The people below shouted together. They believed in Li Wei fervently, and a few simple words from Li Wei could ignite their emotions. Now you can see for yourselves how weak those hypocritical righteous paths are. Li Wei said and clapped his hands, after which two disciples of the cult immediately pushed a cart up. There was a woman tied to the cart who seemed to be from a certain sect. The woman looked delicate and seemed to be young. Her black eyes were filled with fear, anger, and despair. As soon as she appeared, the people below immediately let out a chaotic hissing sound. Look, everyone, this woman is from the Immerse sect. By the way, her name is Ling Yu. Li Wei picked up a scalpel from the podium and continued, her nickname is Flawless Moon. Oh, look, she's really flawless, if you don't count her hypocrisy. This woman joined the Whistling West Wind sect after leaving Immerse sect. She has killed countless followers of the Solipsism sect. Many people are afraid of her and fear her. But today, she's right in front of us. I'm going to prove to you that she's just a mortal. She will also feel fear, bleed, and die. Li Wei then waved his hand, and someone came forward to remove the tape that was covering Ling Yu's mouth. Demon! You all deserve to die. Ling Yu yelled at them. Oh, maybe. Li Wei looked at Ling Yu and smiled. In your eyes, we are demons. But in our eyes, you guys are the same. He slowly walked towards Ling Yu and spun the scalpel in his hand. Don't worry, I will slowly cut off your flesh and let you die in pain. Seeing that Li Wei was slowly walking towards her, Ling Yu couldn't help but feel even more terrified. Her legs were trembling, and she had the urge to pee. Although Ling Yu had always been very brave during battles, she still couldn't help but be afraid when death approached her. The unknown was the greatest fear. For humans, death was the greatest unknown. No one knew whether death was the end or a new journey. At this moment, Ling Yu was about to face her impending death. Congratulations, because you can die in my hands, Li Wei said while raising his scalpel. Li Fan couldn't sit still anymore. He wanted to attack, but Jiang Feng pressed down on his shoulder. Jiang Feng's skills seemed to have increased greatly, and Li Fan actually couldn't break free. What are you doing? It's not time yet. She's about to die. It's just a few cuts, she won't die so quickly. Jiang Feng had been expressionless, but Li Fan was already on the verge of losing his temper. At this moment, 3 figures suddenly jumped out of the crowd below. The 3 of them took off their black and red coats and revealed their white robes, each of which was printed with the emblem of riding a horse in the west wind. Hall Master Ling, we're here to save you. Li Wei, die. Yes. The 3 of them pulled out their swords in unison, and judging from their posture, they seemed to be disciples of the Huashan sect. Ling Yu's eyes were filled with excitement when she saw them. It's you guys. The 3 of them were known as the 3 heroes of Huashan, and they were the 3 most powerful experts of Huashan back then. However, they later left Huashan and joined Longfengyu. The 3-talent array that the 3 of them performed was extremely powerful, and it greatly increased the power of their swordsmanship. The 3 of them surrounded Li Wei, who seemed to be a little panicked and took a step back before falling to the ground, causing his mask to fall off. Under the mask was an ordinary face that was filled with shock. Li Fan realized that this guy was just a substitute for Li Wei. Do you understand now, idiot? Jiang Feng mocked Li Fan again, but Li Fan didn't want to say anything. It seemed that his experience was indeed a little shallow. The 3 heroes of Huashan surrounded the fake leader of solipsism, and they also discovered his identity. He's just a substitute. Save the Hall Master first. Yes. The 3 of them turned around and walked towards Ling Yu. Chapter 650. 3 to 4,000 Devil Sect disciples are in chaos. There are already many Devil Sect disciples charging at them, but the 3 heroes of Huashan do not care. Instead, they laugh loudly and throw out the sword qi in their hands. Their cultivation is too high and their sword qi is too strong. For a moment, the crisscrossing sword qi repel and kill those Devil Sect disciples. The strength of the Devil Sect disciples is uneven and they are just a motley crew. The 3 heroes of Huashan are like hungry wolves that have entered a flock of sheep. For a moment, they are in high spirits and behead many people. But those Devil Sect disciples do not seem to care about death. It is as if death is a new journey for them. Look, look. The substitute of the sect leader is still shouting, "Who is the devil now? It is you, you hypocritical righteous dogs." Even if it is only the substitute of the sect leader, these Devil Sect disciples still express fanaticism towards him. From this, it can be seen how charismatic the sect leader of solipsism is. The 3 heroes of Huashan are happily killing and do not care about their Hall Master. Ha ha ha, like chopping vegetables. Just a bunch of rookies. Right. The 3 of them have killed countless people. For a moment, the hall is filled with rivers of blood. Ling Yu is a little anxious as she shouts, "Let go of me first." The 3 heroes are happily killing. Without turning their heads, they shout, "Don't worry, leave it to us. Let us kill all these scum first." Right. While the 3 of them are happily killing, a person suddenly jumps out from the Devil Sect crowd. This person is wearing a black and red robe with arrow sleeves. He is handsome and has long hair like a woman. It seems like an expert has arrived. He is destined to be a ghost under our sword. Right. The three heroes of Huashan laugh and do not put the long hair man in their eyes. Idiot. He is Zui Xin. Just as Ling Yu finished speaking, the long hair man has already dodged two sword chi and landed in front of the three heroes of Huashan. At the same time, he stretches out his hands and slaps the chests of the two heroes of Huashan. Ha ha ha, the power is only SOSO. What Zui Xin, it is all dog shit. Yes. As soon as the three heroes of Huashan finished speaking, two of the swordsmen who were hit immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. Then, their eyes became dull, as if they had already gone to meet the King of Hell before they could figure out what was going on. As for the last swordsman from Huashan, his eyes were wide open as he looked at the scene in disbelief. The devil cult man named Zui Xin suddenly sent another palm strike over. That Huashan swordsman quickly raised his sword to block. Clang! Zui Xin's palm slaps the long sword before taking a step back. In less than 3 seconds, the long sword suddenly broke into 3 pieces with a clatter. The swordsmen of Mount Hua were completely dumbfounded. Unable to withstand a single blow, Zui Xin sneered, took a step forward, and struck the swordsman's chest again. In less than 3 seconds, the Huashan disciple was lying on the ground with blood dripping from his mouth. A bunch of trash. Zui Xin's heart destruction palm was known to be incomparably sinister. As long as it struck the enemy's heart, within 3 seconds, the enemy's heart would shatter and they would die. Zui Xin had committed a heinous crime back then. In order to rape a beautiful young woman, he slaughtered an entire village of people, not even sparing a dog. Later on, he was chased by the Brocade clan guards and wanted by the government. Since he had nowhere to go, he came to seek refuge with solipsism. Li Wei admired his strength and took him in to work for him. In the end, he became one of the 4 heavenly kings of solipsism and was as famous as Qin Meng. 3 heroes. Ling Yu knelt there and watched the scene in a daze. The hope that had just been ignited was extinguished again. If she was going to despair again, she might as well not have had any hope in the first place. Ling Yu felt cold all over and even closed her eyes. Seems like no one is disturbing us anymore. The substitute stood up again, patted off the dust on his body, and picked up the scalpel again. He then said to Ling Yu, who was trembling slightly, "You will be accompanying the 3 of them soon. You'll be accompanying the 3 of them soon. I hope you won't be too lonely on the road to hell." As soon as he finished speaking, he walked towards Ling Yu again. Ling Yu knelt there, her body trembling uncontrollably. Although she did not say anything to appease him, fear was indeed lingering around her and pinching her heart, making it difficult for her to breathe. Seems like there's no value here anymore. Song Fuya didn't appear either. She probably left through a secret passage, Jiang Feng said. You may leave. Li Fan stood up. Since many disciples of the cult were standing, he did not attract any attention. What are you going to do? To save her. I shouldn't have asked you. Jiang Feng seemed to be blaming himself for his foolishness. You haven't even recovered your strength. If you act rashly, you will only get yourself killed. So what? Li Fan smiled and turned his back to Jiang Feng. If I can't even do what I want to do, what's the point of living? After saying that, Li Fan leaped up and stepped on the heads of several people. He then flipped over and landed in front of Zui Xin. Are there any more rats? When Zui Xin saw Li Fan, he sneered, truly courting death. As he spoke, Zui Xin leaped forward and sent a palm towards Li Fan. Heart destruction palm. This palm technique was indeed insidious, but to Li Fan, it was not something he couldn't block. Back then, Li Fan had even blocked the poisonous palm of the Yin Gate's great elder. Today, when he encountered the so-called heart destruction palm, he had the confidence to fight. Black Bear slams on the door. Li Fan clashed with his palm as his true chi filled his palm. Bang! The two's true chi clashed against each other, and the palm wind also clashed against each other. Zui Xin took a step back and looked at Li Fan in front of him with a shocked expression. Who are you? Li Fan didn't answer Zui Xin at all. Now that his identity was exposed, it was extremely disadvantageous for him. He took 2 steps back and broke the rope on Ling Yu's body. But Ling Yu seemed to have taken some medicine and couldn't summon any internal strength. Stop them. Even more Devil Sect disciples blocked the entrance, preventing Li Fan and the rest from leaving. Although Li Fan's meridians were still slightly damaged, he still took out an origin returning pill and stuffed it into his mouth. An origin returning pill allowed Li Fan's true qi to rapidly recover, filling up his damaged meridians. Originally, after consuming the poison from Night Rain building, if he were to slowly nurse himself back to health, it wouldn't cause any harm to his body. However, Li Fan was too anxious. He raised his true qi in a single breath, causing him to spurt out a mouthful of blood. If you don't retreat, you will be killed without mercy. Li Fan raised his palm and said while looking at the people in front of him. Ha ha ha, what a joke. Who do you think you are? You sure talk big. The substitute of the sect master stood by the side and laughed as he looked at Li Fan. In this pugilistic world, there is only one person who dares to speak with such a big tone. That is little overlord Li Fan. Do you think you are Li Fan? Chapter 651. Little Overlord Li Fan. This name is very famous in the pugilistic world. Although he is only ranked 88th on the list of famous people, he has already made a name for himself. There is no one in the pugilistic world who does not know of Little Overlord's name, and they all understand his temper. What pugilistic world rules, to Little Overlord, are all nonsense. Hearing the sect leader's sarcasm, Li Fan did not speak. His arms trembled, and Great War God popped out from his back. Because it is filled with true energy, Great War God's body is also golden in color, full of true energy. Seeing this legendary move, the sect leader's substitute is stunned for a moment, and subconsciously takes 2 steps back. Zui Xin also blinks his eyes. What the hell, isn't this Little Overlord's 7 Heroes Fist? Li Fan crosses his arms, and stands there, looking very confident. While the Great War God behind him has already stretched out both of his arms, condensing 2 balls of dazzling true energy. Double. Golden Toad Spitting Pearl. 2 balls of true energy form the shape of a ball, and are thrown out by Li Fan's Great War God. A ball of true energy directly exploded in the middle of the crowd. Rumble. The ground trembles, and the entire hall shakes. Zui Xin and the rest are affected by the explosion, and are all sent flying. While the other ball of true energy shatters the ceiling of the building, Li Fan carries Ling Yu, and with a leap, he uses his Qinggong and jumps towards the shattered ceiling. But at this moment, Zui Xin suddenly appears above, and a palm comes pressing down on Li Fan's head. Li Fan frowns, and with 1,000 jacks, he falls from the sky, and lands on the ground. Ling Yu does not have any internal energy to protect her body, and her body trembles, and her brows slightly wrinkles. Sorry. Li Fan whispers in her ear, and Ling Yu is a little surprised. This Li Fan. What kind of personality does he have? Li Fan looks at the demonic sect disciples surrounding him, and each of them look at him as if they want to skin him alive. At this moment, a familiar figure appeared at the entrance. Song Fuya chuckled as she stood there and looked at Li Fan. The aberrations have already changed back. Not bad, not bad. I can confirm your identity now. In that case, this is a trap specifically for me, right? Hugging Ling Yu, Li Fan looked at the people from the devil cult and sighed softly. Indeed. Song Fuya nodded. If we go back to the headquarters, you will find a way to follow us. Especially since you have a very bad habit of meddling in other people's business. It's rare that you know me so well. Li Fan looked at Song Fuya. Not only was he not anxious, he even smiled. He looked at the people of the devil cult in front of him and said unhurriedly, "What virtue and ability do I, Li, have to make everyone miss me so much? This is really too much for me." Little Tyrant Li Fan, the chief escort of Phenomenal Escort Agency, fiancé of the Martial World Alliance Master. Song Fuya slowly said, "Just based on these identities, it is enough for us to treat you well." As she spoke, she lightly clapped her hands. "Zui Xin, haven't you always wanted to kill Li Fan and take his 88th rank?" Today, the opportunity is in front of you. You must cherish it. Rest assured, Protector Song. Today, I will crush his heart. Zui Xin was brimming with confidence. He took 2 steps forward and launched a swift attack at Li Fan. Zui Xin's palm technique was indeed scary. Especially when Li Fan was hugging Ling Yu, it looked hard to block. But the Great War God popped out once again and stretched out his huge palm. Before Zui Xin's palm landed, he had already sent out a punch. Beating Tiger. Right now, Li Fan's move, transforming Toad, had reached the acme of perfection. Under the state of the Great War God, he could also use the other Qihuang fist. Especially beating Tiger. Once he found the opponent's weakness, he would immediately break it. Zui Xin came fast and left fast. He fell heavily on the ground 3 meters away. Trash. Song Fuya was very dissatisfied. You rely on wrestling to win against Li Fan? Just now I had slipped away. I won't do it anymore. Zui Xin climbed up and stabilized his mind before pointing at Li Fan and roared, I have already focused 120% of my mind. You are dead. As he spoke, Zui Xin's feet began to shift rapidly as he closed in on Li Fan. Ling Yu was a little worried. This Zui Xin was one of the Devil Sect's 4 heavenly kings. Just now, her 3 most capable generals had all died under his palm. That heart destruction palm was comparable to a fatal poison. If one was hit by that palm, even if he didn't die, he would be crippled. But Li Fan's face didn't have any trace of fear. He stood there hugging himself as the corner of his mouth was slightly raised, as if he was very excited. This man's mouth was still stained with blood. It should be the condition of his meridians being damaged. In this kind of state, he could still be excited. How much did he like to fight? Zui Xin once again arrived in front of Li Fan. This time, it was even faster and fiercer. The Great War God suddenly sent out another punch. Beating Tiger. Zui Xin's body was once again sent flying. Facing Zui Xin's direction, Li Fan let the Great War God throw out a ball of qi. Golden Toad spitting pearl. That ball of qi quickly caught up to Zui Xin's body and exploded on his body, tearing his body apart. Although it wasn't completely torn apart, it still forcefully tore off one of Zui Xin's arms. He screamed as he fell from the sky onto the ground as he wailed in pain. The loss of an arm was too great a price for him. Kill him, Li Fan. Seeing this scene, Ling Yu let out a sigh of relief as her hatred was vented. This person raped and pillaged, committing all sorts of crimes. Back then, just to rape a girl, he even massacred an entire village. All right. Li Fan nodded his head as the Great War God gathered his qi. Those Devil Sect disciples immediately stood in front of Zui Xin, seemingly wanting to protect one of the 4 heavenly kings. 7 Brilliance Fists. Highest Profound. Li Fan controlled the Great War God. The Great War God's body was completely stretched out as both of his arms formed a bow shape, pulling them behind his back as both of his hands grabbed a ball of qi. The 2 balls of qi kept twisting as they moved in opposite directions and spun rapidly. Dragon Spitting Pearl. The Great War God pushed out the 2 balls of qi. The 2 balls of qi tangled together in the sky as they rubbed against each other, strengthening each other. Boom. The 2 balls of qi exploded on the opposite group of people. The strong qi turned into a whirlwind as it quickly tore them apart. In a blink of an eye, the group of people enveloped by the qi were all torn into minced meat. Even Zui Xin was the same. No one was able to escape from this attack. When the whirlwind passed, the ground was filled with minced meat. It was really like a dragon spitting pearl, destroying everything. Song Fuya, who was standing at the side, was completely dumbfounded. This Li Fan, even after being forced to this point, he still has this kind of strength. Could it be that in solipsism, other than the sect leader, no one can defeat him? After a dragon spitting out a pearl, Li Fan asked in a loud voice with an aggressive aura. Who else? Chapter 652. Li Fan's aura is unparalleled for a moment. Those Devil Sect disciples look at Li Fan and the Great War God behind him. None of them dare to step forward. Even Zui Shin of the 4 heavenly kings was killed. What ability do they have to win against little overlord Li Fan? Li Fan's great war god stretches out his hand and releases Dragontoad absorption, pulling the sect leader's substitute in front of him. The great war god grabs the substitute's neck and lifts him up into the air. The substitute's legs are constantly kicking. Weren't you very powerful earlier? Come on. Li Fan looks at the substitute whose face is flushed red and sneers, since you like to act as a substitute so much, why don't you die in place of your sect leader? You will die a horrible death. The sect leader's substitute screams. Speak, where is your sect leader? Li Fan subconsciously took a look. Song Fuya and Jiang Feng had slipped away without him noticing. This substitute was the only way to break through. I don't know, even if I know. I won't tell you, that substitute is actually quite stubborn. Alright, then you have no more value to me. The Great War God exerts force and directly breaks the substitute's neck. The Great War God casually tosses the substitute's corpse to the side. The remaining Devil Sect disciples do not dare to make an enemy out of Li Fan. They all retreat. Li Fan carries Ling Yu and walks out step by step. He walks as if he is taking a stroll in the park, happy and at ease. Those Devil Sect disciples do not dare to take a step forward. After Li Fan walks out of the door, he spits out another mouthful of blood. The Great War God is about to collapse. Your meridians are damaged. You need to recuperate. Ling Yu cannot help but remind him. I also want to, but now is not the time. Li Fan looks at the heavy traffic in front of him. Which city are we in now? Shanghai. Ling Yu is a little ashamed. We also thought that the Devil Sect's headquarters is here. Seems like we have been mocked. A cunning rabbit has 3 burrows. Li Fan said, if he can find their headquarters easily, it means that Li Wei is too careless. Li Wei is a respectable opponent. Even Ling Yu couldn't help but praise this Devil Sect's sect leader. He will be a formidable opponent for our 4 major alliances. Speaking of which, your meridians are injured. Are you really alright? I'm alright. I just feel that you're a little heavy. Bastard. Ling Yu was so angry that she struggled to get out of Li Fan's embrace. Who allowed you to hug me? If I don't carry you, you can walk out on your own. Li Fan chuckled, and Ling Yu turned her head away angrily. Humph, you are indeed famous for being annoying. Oh, am I that famous? You are really famous in the 4 alliances. Every alliance wants to take you in. Our alliance leader Long has been talking about you so many times that he almost asked you to be the deputy alliance leader. When she mentioned the dragon language, Li Fan noticed that there seemed to be some fluctuations in Ling Yu's gaze. Seems like this girl likes their alliance leader. TSK, that's a new discovery. Since you're already out, let's part ways here. Li Fan adjusted his internal breath slightly and calmed his injuries. I'll have to trouble you. Ling Yu suddenly said shyly, I've temporarily lost my skills. I don't have the ability to protect myself at the moment. If the cult takes the opportunity to find me, I'm afraid I'll fall into their clutches again. Do you want me to escort you? Li Fan understood the meaning behind those words. Ling Yu nodded. Just send me to our branch in Shanghai. When I get there, someone will naturally protect me. Girl, you really cherish your life. I just don't want to die in vain. Ling Yu glared at Li Fan angrily. Sure, it's not a problem if you want me to escort you. Li Fan stretched out his hand and opened his palm. What are you doing? Collecting money. Li Fan rolled his eyes. I'm an escort, okay? You want me to escort you, you have to give me money. It's a waste of effort. Why don't you have any Jianghu Code of Brotherhood? Jianghu Code of Brotherhood, I do. Li Fan laughed, saving you from the hands of the cult grandsons. This is the Jianghu Code of Brotherhood. But the Code of Brotherhood has been used up. Now it's time to talk business. You, shameless. Hey, I'm just giving my labor and earning money. How is it shameless? You little girl, there's something wrong with your 3 views. By the way, it's quite easy to earn money from your 4 major alliances. Bastard. Fine, since you don't want to talk, then I'm leaving. Li Fan turned around and was about to leave but was pulled back by Ling Yu. Don't, okay, how much money do you want? Your branch is also in Shanghai? Yes, how long is it? Around an hour. Oh, then I'll give you a discount. After all, we're all children of the Jianghu, it's fate that we know each other. I have to give you some face. Yes. Then 10,000 for an hour. If you have a few more minutes, just treat it as my gift to you. Ling Yu was stunned. This is called discount. 10,000 R. Even though she is riding Whistling West Wind, her monthly salary is only a little more than 10,000, and this is the salary of a branch leader. Riding Whistling West Wind has its own business to support these martial artists in the alliance. But there are too many people, it's impossible to have so much money. But everyone is living frugally, following by Long Fengyu's side, they are willing to help him achieve great things. One day, everyone will eat and drink together, isn't that great? This Li Fan, opening his mouth, 10,000. Does he think money falls from the sky? No money, no problem, see you later. Li Fan is about to leave again but was pulled back by Ling Yu. Ling Yu's pretty face is red. Clearly, she is angered by Li Fan to the point of choking. Are you going to use it or not? Give me a straightforward answer. Li Fan urges. Use it. Ling Yu's eyes are red and she is about to cry. When we reach the branch hall, I will get my brothers to pass it to you. This damnable Li Fan, he is simply a bloodsucker. Alright, deal. Look, this is another joyous business deal. I wish us a smooth cooperation. Li Fan stretches out his hand and shakes Ling Yu's hand, indicating that the contract is established. Speaking of which, how are we going to the branch hall? Ian, we can just take a taxi. Do you have money? Hey, the two of them look at each other helplessly. Li Fan had even lost his handphone. He can't even turn on the GPS. His qinggong is too weak. Let's take the subway. Li Fan takes out $10 from his pocket. This is the only bit of money he has. Fine, Ling Yu wants to cry but has no tears. Spending 10,000 just to take the subway? Li Fan, you are a huge scam. Chapter 653. 10,000 RMB. What kind of airline would that be? It would be enough for a first-class seat. Now the two of them can only squeeze in the subway. Ling Yu really wants to cry but has no tears. It seems to be rush hour. The two of them squeezed in the subway, surrounded by people, and the air circulation is not good. The stench of sweat almost suffocates Ling Yu. Scam his whole family. Tricking his ancestors. Ling Yu no longer believes in Li Fan. This guy is unreliable. However, Li Fan was happy and content. He stood on the subway as if there was no pressure at all. Don't you feel uncomfortable? Ling Yu cannot bear it and sends a voice transmission to Li Fan. It's all right. There are so many people, don't you feel squeezed? I feel that it is quite interesting. This is my first time taking the subway. Li Fan had taken the subway once when he went to Yellow Springs, but that was a special subway and there were basically no passengers. This method, is it worth 10,000? Ling Yu finally cannot bear it and asks. Of course it is. Li Fan smiles. If you don't believe me, look 3 meters behind you. There are 2 people on the right. They are both experts from the devil cult. There are also 3 people in the next carriage. They are all martial artists. As for the other carriages, there should be their people there too. How do you know? A man's sixth sense. Ling Yu does not believe Li Fan's nonsense. This man is too exaggerated. Her alliance leader is still the most stable. We are almost there. They are preparing to make their move. Just as Li Fan finished his sentence, the train slowly enters the platform. Many people start to rush out and squeeze in. At this moment, the 5 experts from the devil cult also squeezed to Li Fan and Ling Yu's side. This is the last chance. The 5 of them can no longer hold it in. They stretch out their hands and slap Li Fan's body. In this crowded carriage, the 5 of them are unable to make any big movements. They can only use their internal energy to tear Li Fan's internal organs. Ling Yu didn't have any internal energy, so she could only watch as the 5 of them attacked Li Fan. However, Li Fan smiled at Ling Yu. He had already gathered his innate qi to fight against the 5 devil cult expert. Among the 5 evil cult experts, 2 were at the peak of perfection while the other 3 were at a higher level. When the 3 of them combined their innate qi, the power was not to be underestimated. But Li Fan just sneered and cut to the Star Luo power art. This meridian was still intact, it was just that Li Fan did not want to use it. At this moment, Li Fan felt as though he could feel the life force of everyone in the carriage. Some people's life force was boundless, while some people's life force was weak. And the most powerful ones were the 5 experts from the devil cult beside him. Ling Yu glared at the branch master. The branch master hurriedly cupped his hands at Ling Yu. Master Ling, the alliance leader said that when we see young hero Li, we must treat him well. I have already given him 10,000 yuan, is it not enough? Ling Yu fiercely rolled her eyes. Friend, I am in a hurry to go back. Your alliance leader is so hospitable, why don't you help me arrange a car back to a city? Li Fan was still a little afraid of flying. Okay, no problem. The branch master hurriedly agreed, but it is already late, why don't young hero Li stay at my place for a night? There are many fun places in Shanghai, I will bring young hero Li to have a look, I guarantee that you will be satisfied. Then he chuckled, his meaning was self-evident. Ling Yu's eyes were about to roll up to the sky. She was not stupid, she knew what these men were going to do. It is better not, I have not been home for a few days, my family should be anxious. Li Fan rejected the other party's invitation. Young hero Li is really homesick. Speaking of which, recently Alliance leader Murong also dealt with a few branches of the demonic cult and had a lot of merits. The 2 of you are really like an immortal couple, with the 2 of you here, the demonic cult's fate is probably over. In the end, the 4 alliances are doing better. Li Fan did not take credit and cupped his hands. Big brother, please help arrange the car. Chapter 654. After tossing and turning for a few days, Li Fan finally returned home. However, it was different from what he had thought. His house was not a quiet place at the moment. At this moment, the normally quiet villa was filled with black-robed Sword Reliance disciples. Li Fan was shocked. Holy shit, this Yi Sword had chased him all the way here. The moment Li Fan arrived at his doorstep, these disciples immediately bowed to him in unison. Welcome, my lord. The respectful attitude these disciples had towards Li Fan made Li Fan a little unable to accept it. What are you doing? Li Fan took a step back in fright. Li Fan, get the hell in here. Murong Ying's voice came from inside the house. She had already sensed his aura. Although it was a little embarrassing, Li Fan still obediently walked into the house. Murong Ying, there are so many people here. Can you give me some face? The moment Li Fan entered, he shouted. Save face. Did you leave me any face? Murong Ying looked at Li Fan angrily, then pointed with her finger. The room was filled with all sorts of betrothal gifts. Night Rain Tower and Zhong Xiaotian were standing at the side, smiling foolishly at her. Master is back. Even the way Night Rain addressed Li Fan was different. When he saw Li Fan, he stood up and cupped his hands. My lord, I've been looking for you for a long time. I didn't expect you to go to a branch of the devil sect. Awesome. Zhong Xiaotian gave Li Fan a thumbs up. You too. What are you doing at my house? Li Fan asked. To give you a betrothal gift. Night Rain Tower said, please follow me back to Kunlun Mountain today. Why? Get married today. Our alliance master Luo has been waiting anxiously. As soon as Night Rain Tower finished speaking, Murong Ying, who was dressed in a violet chipao, waved her hand and scolded, how dare he? Alliance leader Murong, please don't be angry. Night Rain was not in a hurry. Instead, he looked at Murong Ying with a smile, cupped his hands, and asked gracefully, may I ask, Alliance Master Murong, do you like Lord Li very much? When Murong Ying heard this, she turned her head to the side. Who likes this guy? You guys are thinking too much. Since that's the case, why can't Lord Li marry our alliance leader Luo? Our alliance master Luo seems to be interested in Lord Li. Humph. Don't think that I don't know what Luo Xuewu is thinking. Murong Ying snorted coldly. How could she like Li Fan? What's good about Li Fan? Black lines appeared on Li Fan's forehead. What the heck? How could she talk about her fiancé like that? Since Alliance Master Murong feels that Lord Li doesn't have any good points, then let him go. Our Yi Jian feels that Lord Li has a whole body of good points. Night Rain Tower spoke as if he was very familiar with it. Firstly, Lord Li is so young, yet he already has such great skills. This is a great talent. There is no organization that doesn't want to recruit such an expert. Secondly, Lord Li is an upright person. Facing millions of evil devil followers alone, his expression did not change. This kind of courage and bravery is worthy of praise. Night Rain Tower raised a third finger. Thirdly, Lord Li is very loyal. No matter what, my alliance leader Luo is an outstanding beauty. In front of such a beauty, Lord Li is still able to control himself and return to alliance leader Murong's side. This quality is indeed like gold. It is very admirable. When Murong Ying heard this, her expression seemed to become a little better. She didn't say anything. When Li Fan heard this, he felt a little smug. He actually had so many good qualities. Say more. I am very happy listening to you. Li Fan indicated to Night Rain Tower. That's all. Night Rain Tower's words caused Li Fan to be slightly disappointed. However, he continued. These three qualities, if anyone else has one of them, they would be a hero among men. Lord Li already has three of them. You should be satisfied. All right. What you said makes sense. Li Fan was about to burst into laughter. This Night Rain Tower's words are quite pleasant to listen to. Yi Jian's battle commander is indeed quick-witted and has a glib tongue. Murong Ying started to look at this purple-robed man who likes to hide his hands in his sleeves. Night Rain Tower. In the future, he will definitely be someone. Alliance leader Murong, my alliance leader Luo truly likes Li Fan, otherwise, she wouldn't have specially asked me to come and find him. At this moment, Zhong Xiaotian suddenly stood up and cupped his hands towards Murong Ying. Let me bring him back. Li Fan clearly saw that Night Rain Tower secretly gave Zhong Xiaotian a thumbs up. Damn, these two are singing the same tune. Zhong Xiaotian is a heroic man. His intelligence is definitely not low. Right now, he is cooperating with Night Rain Tower to persuade Murong Ying. However, Murong Ying coldly snorted. Even if I don't want my Murong family's things, I will destroy them. How can I hand them over to others? Damn, when did I become a thing? Li Fan glared at Murong Ying. This girl is asking for a lesson again. I admit that Li Fan might be somewhat outstanding, but that has nothing to do with Luo Xuewu. Murong Ying said resolutely. No matter when, Li Fan is my, Murong Ying's man. Yi Jian, don't have any thoughts about him. To Li Fan, these words are really strange. Forget it, I don't want to think about it anymore. This girl, Murong Ying, always speaks in such a tone. How about this? Night Rain Tower suddenly took a step back. However, what he said made Murong Ying unable to accept it. In a few days, it will be Manor Lord Murong's 60th birthday. Our alliance leader Luo will also personally pay a visit. At that time, let alliance leader Luo personally make the request. You guys. Do you think that I, Murong Ying, am easy to bully? Murong Ying suddenly became angry. Her body released a powerful wave of true qi that spread out. The surrounding tables and chairs slid far away from the impact. Night Rain Tower and Zhong Xiaotian also used their own skills to stabilize their bodies. Alliance leader Murong, please forgive us. We are only doing this for our alliance leader. Night Rain Tower stood there and said slowly, even if alliance leader Murong kills the two of us, I'm afraid it won't change my alliance leader Luo's mind. Humph. Murong Ying coldly snorted and waved her hand. Night Rain Tower and Zhong Xiaotian were both heroes, but they were unable to block Murong Ying's inner force. Their bodies were directly sent flying out of the door and fell outside. Scram, don't appear in front of me again. The two of them got up, rubbed their buttocks, patted the dust off their bodies, and respectfully bowed to Murong Ying to bid farewell. Murong Ying waved her hand, threw out the betrothal gifts, and then heavily closed the door. The disciples of Lin Sword immediately surrounded him and asked all at once. Mr. Yi, how is it? Big brother Jean, is there any hope? Jean Xiaotian shook his head, but Night Rain Tower smiled mysteriously. No worries, I have my own plans. Chapter 655. Li Fan had finally returned to school. He had even forgotten that he was still a student. This was the first time in his life that Li Fan felt that going to school was such a wonderful thing. The moment Li Fan stepped into the school grounds, he felt a familiar aura. When the surrounding students saw Li Fan, they all greeted him. However, many of the freshmen did not recognize Li Fan. When they saw the seniors greeting him, they could not help but whisper, "Who is this guy? I don't know. I've never seen him before. Why is everyone greeting him?" Under the admiring and puzzled gazes, Li Fan walked all the way to his class. Seeing him arrive, some of the students in the class were happy, some were surprised, and some were gnashing their teeth. The little tyrant had returned. This number 2 private high school would probably be bustling again in the future. Li Fan walked to his desk and looked at the empty seat next to him. Little Four Eyes by Lin Luo. He probably would not have the chance to go to school in the future. Students, Li Fan is here. The homeroom teacher had just entered and was about to say something when he suddenly raised his head and saw Li Fan. He hurriedly greeted Li Fan. Li Fan nodded at the homeroom teacher. Only then did the homeroom teacher dare to continue. In order to respond to the call of the country, quality education, and fair treatment, the school has decided to cancel the key experimental class. The students in the experimental class will be separated into different classes. The homeroom teacher's words caused a burst of discussion. This is not a small movement. However, this was a good thing. In the past, because of the key class, many students wanted to enter it. All kinds of competitiveness, pressure, and even a sense of class differentiation. Now that the experimental class was cancelled, it was really a good thing for them. Are there any parents who protested? Li Fan could not help but ask. Of course there are. The school has also withstood a lot of pressure. The form teacher smiled at Li Fan. But ever since you initiated a reform, the school has always insisted on putting people first and never discriminating. Every student is the school's most precious asset. We can't just catch a few key students. We should treat everyone equally and let everyone experience the atmosphere that a real school should have. Long live the school. Long live Li Fan. These words really touched the bottom of everyone's heart. Many students cheered. When Li Fan saw that the form teacher wanted to say something, he immediately stretched out his hand to stop the students. Only then did they quiet down. The school respects everyone, and please respect the school as well. Li Fan said, respecting teachers is the foundation of every student. Don't forget that. Yes. These students were in awe of Li Fan. Upon hearing his words, they all lowered their heads and admitted their mistakes. All right, everyone is too excited. The new form teacher was relatively young and his prestige was indeed not high. He clapped his hands. Actually, I have a few things to announce today. First is the new education bill. Second is that there are a few new students in the class. Some are from the experimental class, and some are from other schools. In the future, everyone will study together and take care of each other. Come in one by one. The form teacher called out to the door. A beautiful little girl immediately walked in. All the students' eyes went straight. Wang Qiong was a little unable to sit still. Lin Yuhin, the school's number 1 campus belle, actually transferred to their class. This is not a stranger to everyone. She is Lin Yuhin, our school's number 1. In the future, she will study and live together with everyone. Let us welcome her. The students applauded enthusiastically, making Lin Yuhin a little embarrassed. Teacher, can I sit next to Li Fan? But Lin Yuhin still mustered up her courage and said, Sure. The form teacher nodded. Lin Yuhin suddenly smiled. Carrying her school bag, swaying her ponytail, she charmingly walked to Li Fan's side. Please take care of me. Under the dumbfounded gaze of Li Fan, Lin Yuhin sat down and winked at him. It's not easy to become a deskmate. In the future, you must come to class often. Lin Yuhin softly said in Li Fan's ear, in the future, if you don't, I will help you make up for it. Thank you. Li Fan said, I can't live like this anymore. Letting a perfectionist like Lin Yuhin sit next to me, isn't that asking for my life? There's also Murong Ari. She also came back to school. Hello everyone. Murong Ari skipped in. When she saw a girl sitting next to Li Fan, she immediately pouted. Because Li Fan didn't come to school, Murong Ari also didn't come for a long time, causing the male students to miss her. The moment this lass came back, she immediately pulled the class's attractiveness level up. There's also a student, Xia Yi. Everyone, welcome her. When Li Fan heard this name, he was stunned. Little senior sister Xia Yi was wearing a school uniform with her hair tied up in a braid. She gracefully walked in and greeted the surrounding students. The male students were all stunned. What a classic beauty. Different from the other girls, this Xia Yi was like a beauty that walked out from an ancient painting. Her face was like a peach, and her eyes were like pearls. Little senior sister, why are you here? Li Fan immediately transmitted his voice to Xia Yi. Why? Am I not welcome? Xia, who sat near Li Fan, and asked telepathically. In the entire class, there were only a few empty seats next to Li Fan. They were specially left by the students to show their respect to the little tyrant. Now, a few beauties were sitting there. No. I'm just a little surprised. Didn't we arrange a university for little senior sister? I couldn't keep up with the progress. So I came to high school to restudy. Restudy from the third year of high school? Only a ghost would believe that. Also, Ling Tian said that when the head escort returns to a city, he will definitely stir up a storm, so he asked me to protect you. Fuck. With little senior sister's strength, she still wants to protect me. It's already good enough that I don't protect her. Li Fan fiercely cursed in his mind. Little junior brother, don't look down on me. My charming swordsmanship is not bad. Xia Yi seemed to be unconvinced and pouted. Senior sister is mighty and domineering. Li Fan hurriedly said good words, but his head was already swollen. The homeroom teacher seemed to have not finished her introduction. She waved at the door. There are 3 more students. Come in together. The classroom door was pushed open, and 3 beauties walked in. These 3 girls had red lips and white teeth, competing with each other for beauty. It was truly a feast for the eyes of the boys. Li Fan was stunned because there were 2 familiar faces among them. Ling Yu. Jin Jiumo. Fuck. Why are these 2 girls here as well? Are you kidding me? What the hell are they here for? Jin Jiumo rolled his eyes at Li Fan. Ling Yu also looked at him unhappily. Li Fan immediately understood. Damn, it must be Night Rain Building and Long Fengyu's doing. Chapter 656. Letting Ling Yu and Jin Kumo enter the school was definitely to get close to him. These 2 girls were still young. It was suitable for them to be in their 3rd year of high school and wouldn't arouse any suspicions. Long Fengyu. Night Rain Tower. These 2 fellows. Li Fan really wanted to beat them up. However, Li Fan didn't recognize the 3rd girl. Her face was like a peach blossom, and her expression was like spring. Ling Yu and Jin Kumo were both beauties, but compared to her, they paled in comparison. Almost all the male students' gazes fell on her. These 3 also entered the school at the same time. Please introduce yourselves. The homeroom teacher clapped his hands. Jin Kumo. Although Jin Kumo was forced to wear the school uniform, her hair was dyed green. How much did this girl like the color green? Her way of introducing herself was also very simple, but after saying her name, she added another sentence. All men, don't provoke me, or else I'll crush your bones. All the male students shuddered. Li Fan also laughed dryly. This was really Jin Kumo's style. In her heart, she would probably only be nice to Night Rain Tower. You said what I said. Ling Yu seemed to be in a bad mood. Although she was young, she was still the hall master of Whistling West Wind. I'm happy to. Do you want to fight? Sword Reliance's people are all bad people. Horse Reliance's people are also idiots. The two of them glared at each other, and the homeroom teacher quickly came out to mediate. Don't fight. Oh right, this is Ling Yu. Ling Yu crossed her arms and snorted. Li Fan's head hurt even more. These two girls were going to defy the heavens. My name is Cheng Mohan. Although the third girl was dressed ordinarily, she was beautiful. She smiled sweetly, and the hearts of the male students instantly melted. Please take care of me. Sit here with me. There's an empty seat next to me. All the male students extended invitations to Cheng Mohan, but Cheng Mohan smiled and walked to sit near Li Fan. Ling Yu and Jin Kumo looked at each other and hurriedly followed. They sat beside Li Fan. For a moment, everyone's angry gazes were cast over. Li Fan couldn't sit still. He knew that he had become the target of public criticism again. Teacher, I am late. A boy hurriedly ran in and apologized to the homeroom teacher. Oh, yes, there's also student Liu Zhu. He's also a freshman, please welcome him. Sparse applause came from below. Clearly, they were not interested in boys. But all the girls were applauding. After all, Liu Zhu was a handsome young man. A lot of girls winked at Liu Zhu, but Liu Zhu still sat on Li Fan's side. Why are you here? Li Fan transmitted his voiceover. He felt like his head was about to explode. Aya, Brother Li, what are you saying? I'm also at the age to go to school. Shouldn't I be studying here? Damn it. Li Fan couldn't help but curse. You're obviously here to join in the fun. Hihi, I can't help it. I was born to join in the fun. Look around you. There are so many people around you. Now, all the major forces want to compete for you. You're in high demand. Compete my ass. I have my own escort agency. Why would I want to play with them? No matter if it's possible or not, I still have to try. Liu Zhu took a second look at Li Fan. Brother Li, you're no longer the newbie martial artist you once were. The current you has a fatal attraction to all the organizations. Not only you, but also your 7-hero fist. If these organizations take you in, you can use your 7-hero fist to help them train new disciples. Liu Zhu's words enlightened Li Fan. It seemed that many people here were actually here for the 7-hero fist. The importance of this fist technique was far greater than himself. Li Fan didn't know whether to cry or laugh. Liu Zhu also sat next to Li Fan. Right now, Li Fan was surrounded by many beauties. Liu Zhu was the only handsome man, which was really enviable. Because I'm going back to my hometown to get married, our class teacher will be replaced temporarily. The class teacher suddenly said. Teacher, who's the new teacher? Yes, why is there a sudden change? The class teacher mysteriously smiled. Don't worry. I guarantee you'll be satisfied. With that, he took 2 steps back. A beautiful figure walked in. Hello everyone. From now on, I'm your teacher. She smiled at everyone. A lot of boys were directly enchanted by her. But Li Fan suddenly stood up. Clenching his fists, his eyes flashed with anger as he looked at the girl. Li Fan, what's wrong with you? Ban Ren hurriedly asked. Li Fan restrained his anger. Liu Zhu, who was sitting behind Li Fan on the right, pulled Li Fan's sleeve. If you have any questions in the future, feel free to ask me. Liao Wushuang charmingly stood there and bowed deeply to the students. I hope that we're not only teacher and student, but also friends. Li Fan slowly sat down. Now was not the time to erupt. But he knew that a storm was about to break out in his school. This small class gathered most of the Jianghu forces. Devil Sect, Yi Jian, Horse Riding, Murong Villa, Huashan, and now the Storm Mercenary. Moreover, there was also an unknown Cheng Mohan, whose origin was still unknown. Teacher Liao, I've long heard of your name. Cheng Mohan, who had been silent all this time, suddenly opened her mouth and said to Liao Wushuang in a sweet voice, I'm very lacking in English. I hope Teacher Liao can help me. No problem, I'll do my best. Liao Wushuang looked at Cheng Mohan a few more times, a trace of vigilance flashed in her eyes. Okay, I've done what I need to do. It's time to retire. Ban Ren said with some reluctance, Dear students, let's see each other in a year. Aya, Ban Ren, we'll graduate in a year. Yeah, come back for a graduation party. These students were also somewhat reluctant, but with such a beauty like Liao Wushuang in their class, it somewhat diluted their thoughts of parting. Rest assured, we'll definitely come back. Teacher Liao, I'll leave them to you. I'll take good care of them. Liao Wushuang handed over to Ban Ren and officially became Li Fan's homeroom teacher. She turned her head, seemingly intentionally or unintentionally glanced at Li Fan. Li Fan's feelings were complicated, mixed, and for a moment, he didn't know what to say. You see, isn't it more interesting? Liu Zhu's voice came again, from now on, your school life will be more lively. Chapter 657. Lively. Lively my ass. Right now Li Fan only wants to curse. My life is already messy enough, now they're adding more to the mess. A small number 2 high school, how can it withstand their torment? This class is a comprehensive test. Liao Wushuang also brought a scary news, after so long, we need to test your overall results. Just as Liao Wushuang finished, the students immediately wailed. Everyone don't be afraid, the questions won't be too difficult, it's just a small test. Liao Wushuang winked at the students, the beauty effect is really awesome. The students immediately stopped complaining and prepared to show off their skills. Pass down the papers. Liao Wushuang let everyone pass down the papers, the first person in each row to the back. When Li Fan received the papers, he took a look, damn, I don't recognize a lot of them. I haven't been to class for a long time. Recently I've been taught a lot of knowledge, but I really haven't seen them. I've been too focused on Jianghu and the mutants, I really need to focus on my studies. Li Fan looked at the paper and scratched his ears and cheeks. While Lin Yuhin is sitting on the side, answering the questions in a relaxed manner, like floating clouds and flowing water. Li Fan glanced sideways again and saw that Liu Zhu and Murong Ari had answered very quickly. It was as if this question was not difficult for them. Murong Ari had inherited her sister's talent and intelligence. She also said that her knowledge is enough for her to go to university. These high school questions are really child's play to her, not worth mentioning. Looking at the others, some are scratching their head like him, some are calmly answering the questions. Li Fan has no choice, he also doesn't want to copy, that's not his true ability, there's no point in handing it in. He finished answering all the questions he knows and handed in the papers. Liao Wushuang is also very good, she sits in the front row, immediately marking the papers. She finished marking a paper in a few strokes and put it aside. Before the class is over, everyone's papers have been marked, Liao Wushuang directly handed them out. In this test, some people are really good, their results improved. But some people are disappointing. Li Fan looked at his own paper. Fuck, 35 points. What the fuck? How embarrassing. I was the one who got first place in the English exam. When Lin Yuhin saw Li Fan's paper, she rolled her eyes. Who asked you to neglect your studies? Look. How far have you fallen behind? Lin Yuhin said bitterly, you actually answered all these math questions wrong. God, are you a pig? Ahem, there are so many people here. Save me some face. It doesn't matter, I can give you supplementary lessons. Murong sat next to him and said with a smile, I'll definitely make your grades better. Murong's words immediately aroused the hostility of Lin Yuhin. The two girls stared at each other. Ha ha ha, 18 points. You're too awesome. Ling Yu grabbed Jin Jimo's test paper, glanced at it, and laughed out loud. "You're only 25, aren't you embarrassed to laugh at me?" Jin Jomor snatched her paper, her face slightly red as she reprimanded. Cheng Mo-han, who was sitting next to them, got a high score of 89. She smiled without saying anything, as if victory was already in her grasp. "I should be the one who got the highest score here." This woman seemed to be very confident. Xia Ya looked at her 15 points, feeling wronged. She still needed to work harder in the cultural class. "I'm sorry, I got 92. Liu Zhu laughed as she raised her paper and waved it. "Looks like I'll definitely be the first." "H, I got 98. You bunch of scums," Murong said arrogantly. "Fuck, stop fighting. Is there anyone who scored 100 points? Li Fan rolled his eyes. These people were nothing compared to a top student like Lin Yuhin. When they saw Lin Yuhin's paper, they immediately became unhappy. This girl got a very high score. What's the structure of her brain, a robot? What's wrong? It's just that the paper is too easy. It's all about the things that have been tested before," Lin Yuhin said indifferently, causing more people to be jealous. "Everyone has seen your score. Now that you're all high school students, you can't delay anymore." Liao Wushuang clapped her hands and said, "Teacher Liao, you're someone who just came back from studying abroad. Why are you so concerned about your score?" Li Fan suddenly chuckled. "It seems to be different from what you said. Is Teacher Liao hiding something from us? I did come back from studying abroad, but will China change because of me?" Liao Wushuang said, "I can teach you all the Western things, and I'm happy to teach you. But can China's education accept it? You still have to go through the college entrance exam, and you still have to use your score to speak. If you want to change everything, okay, get into college first. Work hard to climb higher and become a person who can change the rules." When Liao Wushuang said these words, her voice became louder and louder, as if she wanted to shock the depths of Li Fan's heart. But Li Fan was unmoved. "I hope you really mean well for us, Teacher Liao," he lightly said. "Don't let the students down, after all, we have hope. I will give you the appropriate guidance, the rest of the road is up to you." Liao Wushuang gently sighed and continued, "Well, this test is to let everyone find their own shortcomings. In the following days, I will give you tailor-made guidance according to each of your shortcomings. Everyone needs to be guided. Thank you for your hard work, Teacher Liao." Li Fan interrupted again, "You're really considerate. This is what I should do," Liao Wushuang flatly replied. In this class, only Li Fan dared to chat with the teacher in front of the class. When the head teacher spoke, how could the other students dare to say anything? The bell rang, signaling the end of the class. "Everyone, take a break. Li Fan, come with me," Liao Wushuang called out to Li Fan. A lot of boys looked at Li Fan with schadenfreude. This time, he's finished, he's going to be scolded by Teacher Liao. But there were still a lot of people who envied Li Fan. Being alone together, even if he's scolded, he's still happy. After all, she's a beautiful teacher. "Li Fan, look for me tonight. I also want to talk to you." Lin Yuhin pointed at Li Fan and said, "If you don't come, Humph, I won't let you off." With that, this girl took out one lesson, one practice, and began to crazily answer the questions. Li Fan can only watch. This kind of ability is not something that can be envied. When Lin Yuhin was born, her learning talent was already maxed out. This ability and hobby of answering questions is not something that ordinary people have. But right now, I should solve the matter with Liao Wushuang first. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.